Yeah. So are we on now or?
It always takes a little bit, so yeah, just feel free to mindless chat for this. Plus, it gives me a chance
Oh,
to kind of promote it and stuff like that. So
what
it's gonna
is
go
what is
on.
that next to the popcorn? Like a butter dispenser? Is that what I'm
I
looking at, or
don't
is that?
know. That was the one. Trust me, you should see something. I had a there was five images, and there was one
Yeah.
that was kind of like the glasses were like three eyes. I'm like, so this was kind of the best one. Like I didn't want to go over. I'm like starting soon with film,
I
references
like.
around it,
Yeah.
and yeah, it doesn't always like spell things right, so it's just hilarious. Like some of the things that I have to do
No,
just
no,
to
you
get it
saw it.
going.
Yeah. I
And I
just
know I
like.
showed you the shit show and shit like that.
The shit
Uh,
show was great. Oh, I love that shit. The shit show. That's what this is. And
yeah.
sometimes it can be a shit show. Have we done an episode or anything yet about like what do we like eating at the movies? Like what our favorite
No, no,
snacks are and like that?
we can definitely have some of that at a later
Because I'm not a
time.
big popcorn guy. I'm not a big popcorn guy. Just gonna go ahead and
Really?
say that right now. Yeah,
Oh,
nah.
I usually always get a bag of
Popcorn. I
popcorn.
like the smell of it, but not like eating it. I don't know. It's like what they give you for free at the 99 restaurant. Like I don't know. Like it's never really done anything for me. I've been more like when I grew up in Los Angeles. We went to there was a town called Palos Verdes, and that's where we would go to the movies. And there were like options back then. So this is like fuck early 90s. There was like you could get hot dogs, you could get nachos, you could get all sorts of different things. It was the first time back then that I saw something that was like, oh my God, you can actually get food while you're watching a movie. Because before then, my mom used to just make us lunch and like sneak it in her purse. And then she would take us to the movies, and then we would just eat her food. Like she'd be like, "Oh, here, I made sandwiches for everybody." And as soon as the lights went down and the movie started, she was like, we were all like in a row. She would pass out everybody's lunches, like for the movies and shit like that, because we went to the movies that often. It was almost like fucking childcare. So
Oh, too funny. Yeah, no,
we
I
saw
will definitely
everything.
bring up. Yeah, so did I, and I know stories as we get to that too. So, oh my God.
I like Sour
But
Patch Kids, my favorite candy, I think. Although I have grown on Goobers. Goobers have gotten to me. That's because at Blockbuster I used to steal so many boxes. So while I'm on the shift, I used to just eat lunch and it would just be free candy.
nothing like free candy.
Well, because I knew in inventory, like they wouldn't catch it. Like there was always like discrepancies for fucking like candy and shit like at Blockbuster. So sometimes I'd be like, oh, okay, let me just grab myself a box. Nobody will know. As long as I've spaced it out.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah, no, no. I mean,
I'm
I'm
not.
agreeing with
That's
you.
not the worst thing that's happened at the Blockbuster video. I'm just saying, there are worse things that have occurred. Shall remain unnamed.
Oh, my. Did I leave my laptop on? Let me. At least I know we're. Sorry, it was
Sounds like
echoing.
me. Yeah,
It
I
was.
can. Yeah, don't worry. I
Yeah,
won't
no, I
spill
was.
our Blockbuster
No, no,
secrets
I don't.
quite yet.
There's some I don't care about. There's just some, I'm now a happily
This.
married man that I got to keep away from.
Yeah, which is fine. That's okay. The past can stay in the past. We know what happened.
We did. We did. Yeah, we did. All right.
Blockbuster After Dark.
Dude, oh my God, I know. So we got a little time before getting this, but I think I ran poker games out of the fucking back room.
That was in Methuen, right?
I was doing. That was just the
Yeah.
funniest. Yeah. Oh my
That's
God.
dude. I mean, like when I worked at the Kenmore Square one, um, which is right by Fenway Park in Boston. It was the slowest store. It was probably like we would count down the drawer and it'd be like maybe $150 in the drawer,
I
because there
remember you
just
telling
wasn't
me.
that many people in that neighborhood. And so, like, it was a daily occurrence for me to empty out like a Nestea and go next door to the liquor store and buy like a Long Trail double bagger and put it in a Nestea. And so it had the same exact color as the Nestea. And I would just be sitting there drinking beer, like on the shift. No customers were coming in, so I'm just drinking beer. And then I think I remember one of my like coworkers was like, "Hey, I got to take the trash out. Do you want to go smoke a bowl in the back?" And I was like, "Absolutely. What do I care? I'm 22 years old." I remember smoking a bowl after taking the trash out. But our trash area we would exit the back of the store and we would see Fenway Park. Like it was like the Green Monster was like right there. So
Wow.
we could just be like, we were just sitting there smoking a bowl in our Blockbuster fucking polos, just watching fucking
The
Fenway
Red
Park and being
Sox.
like, watching the Red Sox and then just going inside and then just drinking and just coming home. And I would walk from Fenway to Tremont Street. It's about a 30-minute walk and just be hammered like all the way from work, hammered from work. And then I'd get home and I lived above a Chinese restaurant and I would then continue to dabble in recreational activities after that. So it's quite a summer, I will say.
Can't even imagine. Can't even
Oh,
imagine.
dude, long time ago, galaxy far, far away. No
Oh.
pun intended.
Mm-hmm. All right. Got this going. Got my laptop set up. If people join, they
Okay,
join. If they don't, they don't. But at
that's fine.
least
Yeah.
this is going to be our first whole unedited, podcast live on YouTube. I know we usually
Yeah.
do it on Twitch, and we're going to be talking about that.
Hmm.
But welcome to the Soto and Chad show. Look at
Ooh.
this lovely. Yeah, I know. I was just like,
Ooh,
I
I
wanted
like
to
it.
film noir, and this
Yeah.
one looked good. The spelling was correct, and again,
Hmm.
I love this AI, image creator. It's so fucking amazing to us.
I could
It's like
never have
because I
drawn
can,
this.
none of us can, but you know what? This is a one in a kind. But I figured
Uh-huh.
every kind of session just show some new stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyhow,
Damn,
we are
I look good.
live. We both look good. I mean, I'm assuming because of the beard. I mean, I know you have the bigger
Yeah.
beard, but you're the guy on the right. But it kind of
Of
worked out because
course.
I wasn't even like one bearded guy, one not. This is just like in a film noir style.
Oh
So yeah,
man,
this
I
is
wish I
kind of
had a
like
mustache like that. Oh damn. I
yeah.
just can never grow a good mustache. That's my curse in life and yeah, that's if I'm on my deathbed, I'll regret that I never grew like a fucking huge Tom Selleck stash in my life.
My God,
It would be
you can
so
do it.
great.
I believe in you. No,
Oh
yeah,
no,
no.
I can't. It's
My
just
dad had the
genetics.
Tom Selleck stash. He pulled that off. He didn't even do the beard, but yeah, he had like the stash. So he definitely could pull that off. Me, I get more just the fuzz, but it's the mustache, beard, stuff like that. I mean,
Have you ever thought about just the mustache or is that just you're
no,
like, no, I
no,
can't.
it's not me. Well, no, because for the longest time I had just kind of the goatee, which was kind of the late '90s, 2000s thing to have for a while. Um, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
pretty much
Me too.
that. And now it's just I clean shave and then I go lazy for a while, and it's like it's everything. I just kind of keep the cheeks clean and whatnot.
Yeah.
But though Jill likes me clean shaven, it's just I do it and she's happy. Then I'm like, yeah, let me be fucking lazy for like a couple months. Though I will admit, like for a while, the last few months, I had a bushy like this. You'd have been like, damn. But I had the beard, I had the mustache. It just took me a while. It was growing. Finally, I'm like I have to shave this down. But man, it was freaking huge. I was getting there, man. So I just couldn't do it much longer. But yeah. So like the guy on the
Uh,
right, you make that more blonde. That's more me. Maybe a little
yeah.
mustache, a little bit more
Yeah.
filled out. Not like
Hmm.
kind of that clean shaven one. I know I get a little lazy and stuff like that. So, but yeah,
Well, in my industry, thankfully, that I work in the cannabis industry, it's like, having a beard is not like the weirdest thing that people see. So if I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna shave today, it's like, and I walk in and I'm like looking a little bit like not shaved, people are like, oh, that's fine. It's You're selling weed. So
yeah.
it's a lot looser than regular retail
Well,
situations.
I'm not even regular retail now. I can just look however. I mean, as long as I'm not wearing anything offensive or anything like that,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
good point.
that easy enough. So, oh yeah, but this is a nice little film, Laura. I like this one the best.
Hmm.
I because it's all black, it's hard to see because it's actually just kind of more of a poster size, hence those lines and stuff like that. But yeah,
Oh
this is
yeah,
kind of the coolest
yeah.
one. There was a few that
I like
didn't.
it.
Yeah, it was good. But I kind of want to talk about a little channel update, things that we've discussed, things that were kind of changing, and
Hmm.
maybe some things in the future. Because for I know you know this, but for most part of this year, we don't really have any gameplay on our channel. You know, it was
No,
more of we want to do more of the podcast, more of the talking. I think it's more fun. I think more people tend to like that. We get a little bit more views, but you know, it's just not your
absolutely.
typical. It's but we're not going away from gaming. We're still gaming on Twitch. We'll still have like the highlights, you know, the montages, whatnot. I just don't think we're doing a full gameplay unless it's maybe a game like a good story game, which will come down the line, The Devil Within Me, because we've been doing those dark, you know, anthology pictures. So
Yeah,
those are fun, and yeah, we got that next one kind of lined up. But there's that. But also, Rotten Taste. There's a small tweak we're doing for the longest time. We've been doing movies 50% or less. That was kind of our rules. And
yeah,
then we, you know, and we were like, let's stick to it. You know, let's just stick to our rules, you know, our guns. But then we thought under 60% is considered rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. And that opens up a lot of movies that we can do that we wanted to do. So going forward, we're still going to do a lot of the less than 50%, but now the threshold is if it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, which is under 60, we can do it. So Soto, there's a few that we've talked about that we can now do. And I'm not saying we might do all these, but Weekend at Bernie's, we can now
oh,
do.
oh, fantastic.
Kindergarten Cop, we can now do.
Wait, what's Kindergarten Cop rated?
It's somewhere in the mid 50s. I don't know exactly, but it's at under
Oh,
50, but it's in that 50 to 59 range. So now we can officially do it. The
god
Monster
damn.
Squad. The Monster Squad's one of my favorites. I would love to do
Oh,
this.
old school.
But that's one. We could even do Spaceballs. We could touch that now.
What?
Yes, that's in the mid
Spaceballs
50s.
is that
Oh,
low?
so yes, those are four. But Soto, I found three others that surprised me that we could technically do. I don't know if we will
Oh
do it. We haven't
god.
talked about it. No, so we could do the Kevin Bacon Footloose.
What?
We could. That's in the mid 50s. We can touch that now.
Such an
We could.
iconic movie.
It is, but this is now we're in that area where it's like, yeah. Oh no, no, no. This gets worse or better. I mean, or funnier. I don't know how you want to look at it. We can also do Willow.
Oh no, come on. Don't come for
I know
Willow.
we can't. I'm just saying we
Come
can.
on.
No, no.
I love
It's.
it.
I
I
do
love
too.
Willow. First of all, it's great. It's got Val Kilmer. I won't go into a Rotten Taste episode right now, but like, holy shit, man. Come on. I mean, sure, it's a just a shitty copy of Lord of the Rings, but well, we're doing Willow. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it.
We got time, like I said, because there's a lot now opening up. But dude, this one made me laugh that we could actually do this. Now, again, I don't think we're going to touch this one, but we can because there's certain ones that we've talked about, like Tommy Boy, Ace Ventura. We're always
Oh
under
yeah.
50, but we're like, can we really make an episode out of it? Which I know we probably can. You know, sometimes it's tough. It's easier with the early, you know, most of the 80s and early 90s, our childhood ones, because there's a lot of stories
Oh yeah.
to it. But we you know that those are always in our back pocket. But there's one that popped up which I laughed at that technically we could do. I just don't know if we want to do. Dude, we could officially do Top Gun. That's in the mid 50s. That's
What?
not a that's
The
considered
first
rotted
one?
on rot. The first one, Maverick, the sequel is like I think it scored in the late 80s, early 90s. Like it got a high Rotten
I saw
Tomatoes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, say hi, Mel. What's up, Mel? How's it going? Mel has
Oh
joined the
Mel.
chat. I'm assuming it's Mel and not Tengu, because I know he has the other one. Because it's Melly Playful and Tango. I actually now on the screen get like their little pictures and stuff like that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I've been
yeah.
watching their Helldivers videos because, like, obviously I don't ever pay full price for games, because no matter how much money I have, I'm just a cheap ass motherfucker. But I've been watching Helldivers 2 with their videos, and I'm like, ooh, I so want to buy that. I just
We
can
got.
imagine. I can imagine the shenanigans that you and I would get into in that game. Like
Oh,
especially when it's like killing your teammate accidentally and shit like that, like just the crazy situations that they had to get out of. I think is fucking great, and I think that it's someday when it comes down in price, or maybe if somebody wants to buy it for us, it's gonna be fucking hilarious. And yeah, I've been watching Mel and Tengu's videos on
we,
that, so great job on that.
we got so much on our plate now because I know we have a couple
I
games from
know,
competing for West that we
I
got
know,
lined up.
I
But it's funny that you
know.
mentioned that because you know I have not watched the Helldivers, but the videos I have been watching MLs just because we talked about this is the Fortnite Rock Band ones. Yeah, because now you can actually kind of have you use your controller, but you can do like songs and stuff like that. And yeah, she did a
What?
couple songs. Yeah, no, go find it. I just watched oh God, I can't remember the name of it. Fuck, I don't know, but yeah, she's been releasing a few if you find them. But yeah, basically now it's like a rock band version. You know, you have your Fortnite character, so she's Jack Skellington, and so it's him singing, which is fucking hilarious to me.
What?
But you got to match like the prompts on your controller as they scroll down. Yeah, Guitar Hero in Fortnite, and she like Tengu is like on the drums or something like that. Um, Oh,
Wow. I
zombie. That's
love
right.
that shit.
Cranberry zombie. I love the cranberries. That's right. Thank you, Mel. Yeah, she did zombie, and there was a couple others that I've watched, but yeah, that was the latest one. So those are the ones I love because I'm like, it's just funny to see Jack Skellington be like zombie. I mean, obviously it's Dolores's voice, you know, because it's not because you just have to time it out, so you're
Yeah,
not singing. But yeah, it's actually pretty interesting how they do it. But it's whatever character
I'll
model
have
you
to
have in
check that out.
Fortnite, and it's just like a rock band, and I think you can do up to 4 people, so you can have a full band. So yeah, Mel, those are
That's
the videos I've
awesome.
been watching. The Helldivers I've not, but yeah, we have, you know, because I think we just mentioned, you know, Devil with Me. What is gonna we might save later. I know we got Final Fantasy, The Strangers of Paradise. We're gonna finally hit. That'll
Yes.
be our next
Oh,
really big
an
game.
RPG, co-op RPG.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then there's a couple others, you know, depending on the price that, you know, there's just so much that's opened up. But I know Final Fantasy, because it's us, that we have to finally do this. I think Evil West just took us longer. And
Ugh.
hopefully we put that game to rest or later today. So,
Yeah. It's I'm not. I mean, it's. I feel like it's gonna be the problem with Evil West for me is that it's easy and then it's all of a sudden ridiculously hard for no reason, and it's the same fucking shit over and over and over again. Literally, you walk in a straight line, maybe you solve an environmental puzzle, and then you get to an open space like a circle, and then you fight things
mhm.
until they're dead.
Till they're
And
dead.
it's
That's
so
our review of
annoying.
Evil West. Yes, the controls aren't great. Yeah,
No, none
but
at all.
excuse me. But yeah, um, that's kind of so yeah, that's kind of the changes to Rotten Taste and a couple other things
Yeah.
that we're going to be doing. But it's funny. I wanted to bring up a couple ideas, or maybe one idea, I guess I should say. I was working yesterday, and I have a podcast I kind of listen to and a channel I watch on YouTube called Dead Meat. I don't know if you know of it. Basically, it's a horror channel. Their main thing is they do like kill counts and, you know, their favorite horror movies. But on their podcast, it's if you're a horror fan, it's actually a really good channel. Um,
Mm.
so anyhow, so I was listening to the podcast in my mail truck, and they're just doing some kind of thing like the worst husbands, boyfriends in horror films that aren't the killers, just, you know, the ones that don't believe the final girls and they're just douchebags. But anyhow, so they were talking about tropes and stuff like that, and one came up because they were talking about going to a palm reader, and you know they talked about their own experience about going, and the main guy, James A. Genius, is like, he doesn't believe in that stuff, but he was cordial. You know, he was being nice. You know, it was
Yeah.
like he was being asked because we're this movie there. And I'm like, Soto, now I'm not saying we have to go get our palms read, but we should definitely
Oh
try new
dear.
things. You know, just be like, and then talk about it. Because I know we don't have cameras. We can't, you know, we're not vlogging our shit. We don't show our faces. But just say, you know, again, because I
Not
know there's
yet.
one down the street in Nashville where I used to live. No, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, if we get monetized and shit like that, fine. I'll show my face. I don't care. But I was like, we gotta try things, different things, and then do, you know, be like, talk about our palm reader experience. And again, I'm just using that one
Okay.
in particular because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't believe in that shit. And if you do, great. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. I know people believe in different things. I'm not big in the astrology shit, you know, the palm reading, crystal balls, all that stuff, whatever. But I think it would be funny just to do it. And I would take it seriously. Like, I would not be a dick to this person and whatnot. But, and
No.
then talk about after and, you know, be like, what we can, you know, talk about maybe the experience and what they said and if there's any truth to it. But it's not just that. It just opened up an idea of things we could do. Because I was like, oh my God, you know, I know games, movies, you know, media. That's our bread and butter. But as
So
our
we do.
talks have gone, we just gone on rants. You know, things that are coming. It's like we talk about our last meal. I just edited and finished that. Obviously, we talked about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, which we called Logan Paul the whole time because we don't fucking know the difference.
I still don't know the difference.
Well, we gotta do a video
If
later
they
on
were to
that.
walk in my house right now, I'd be like, I don't know who is who. I don't know where you're from, but the TV and my phone tells me you're somebody. And so I guess that's you're fighting Mike Tyson. I do know him. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, I have no idea who these guys are. I am going to research this. I think that that's coming up. I will do my due diligence and I will research the Paul brothers and come up with some sort of understanding of this reality that we're gonna do. Which I think July 20th we'll be doing a Mike Tyson thing. So
Yeah, if
we'll
that's the
see.
fight, we'll figure out a way. Like I said, we can kind of put a picture up and maybe do a live reaction on, because we can't
Dude, that'd be
show the fight, but
hilarious.
we could just be
No,
talking. Watching Netflix and be like, "Oh my god!" And yeah, I can't
live
wait.
reaction.
Like, I
I
mean,
mean,
obviously,
yeah.
they're
Oh,
not seeing our faces, but we can kind of comment on it.
yeah.
We may or may not. It was just a thought we threw out there, and if we can pull it off, great.
Dude, it'd
But
be
yeah,
hilarious.
I was not planning on watching this fight because I could not give a shit about anything Jake Paul or Logan Paul. Though I know Logan Paul's in WWE, but when you said Logan Paul, I just assumed whatever.
Like he's a
Uh,
wrestler?
he is. He's in the WWE now. He's like
Oh,
he's been doing some things. I've seen like videos pop up of him. But yeah, Jake Paul's is I don't know, older or younger, I don't know which one, more built and stuff like that. He's the one that's been doing all the boxing shit. Again,
sure.
I don't know what the two of them did before any of this. Like I've vaguely heard them. I know now they got that Logan Paul's got that prime drink, whatever. But Jake Paul, I have no idea. I do not know how these brothers got
He's a
popular.
drink?
Yeah, it's called Prime. It's like some water, energy, whatever. It's like
Ew.
his sponsorship. He created it. He's making millions off of it. So
He
I don't,
created it.
well, yes, he was
He's
out there in the
Colonel
lab.
Sanders.
Yeah,
The
it's
Colonel
finger looking
Sanders.
good, motherfuckers. Um,
Dude, Colonel Sanders was a G. I don't know if you've ever seen like the foods that made America shit, like on, I don't know, History Channel.
no,
But they did like a recreation of how he had to like have turf wars and shit with his gas station versus another gas station that was in on his territory, and it's like in the recreation, it's like Colonel Sanders with like a shotgun, like getting all hardcore and having like land turf wars with other gas stations. Dude, it's hilarious.
reminds me of the South Park episode with him. That's it's like a mob boss.
He
Um,
really, Harlan Sanders, man, he fucking worked at that shit until he figured out how to do fried chicken, man. He fucking worked his ass off. And he didn't even get rich until he was like 60.
huh.
And now he's like iconic, and he's a whole thing in Japan. I think in Japan it's like a tradition to eat KFC on Christmas or some shit like that. I may be totally wrong with the holiday, but he's like immortalized. And again, it took him until he's 60 years old to be successful. So
Wow.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, those are just some things that we want to do on our channel. And I don't know if you have any ideas. Like I said, feel free. But yeah, I thought about that. I'm like, we should
yeah,
just do random things. And I think we made the joke about it with Fun Spot about how the video, like the world's largest arcade, and there's some shit. And you're like, we should just go to like Uno's and be like, this is the world's largest Uno's or whatnot. I'm like, that's it.
yeah. Just
We should just go
make up
places
shit.
and make up shit
Yeah.
and just review the food. Go to some local thing and just be like, yep, this is this. This is the best whatever Chinese food in Lawrence, and we just put that stamp of approval
Make
on
people
it, and then just put it out
mad.
there. Yeah, why not? Cause the
Oh,
trouble.
so
It would be fucking
mad.
awesome. Just like they were with that Fun Spot video. Oh my
Oh my
god.
God. And we just put up stills. Like, I don't
Yep.
understand. Even now, it's like, I just made that comment about Colonel Sanders. I might be wrong on a few different parts. It's okay.
We don't
Sometimes
care.
wrong things happen. There doesn't need to be fucking a thing about it. So yeah, we're gonna just go to random places and be like, this is the biggest Uno's, fucking in New Hampshire. And then somebody will be like, no, it's not. This other one's bigger. And we'll be like, you win. You win the prize. You won. You won the award. You won the argument. Everything's gonna be okay now. So
I want to know who's measuring the biggest Unos.
why do we need to do just, I'm just gonna base my facts on how I just kind of feel in the area. You know what I mean? I'm
Yep.
just gonna be like, I feel my intuition tells me this has got to be one of the biggest Unos. Although sad face, Unos is not really around a lot of places anymore. I think even the one in Boston that's on the right next to Fenway, I don't think that's still there anymore. But
Oh,
I'll
I actually
verify
remember
that
that
next
one.
couple weeks.
Uh,
Of course, it's like right there in the
yeah.
corner there.
I think when we went to the Fenway game, well, the first one we went with Jill together, and Brian was there, and I think we did. I think we stopped at that Udo's. I feel like it. Like I've been to Fenway a few times, but yeah, I could be wrong. But yeah, no, the one like I said, the one we used to go to and hang out with when I saw that shut down, I was like, oh my god. I was like, no, I thought it was remodeling at first. Then I saw all the signs down, and I had to pull out my phone and look it up. I'm like, they closed our Uno's. I'm like, I'm so sad. I am so sad. But
What do you think they'll put there? Like,
just whatever
is
other
there
restaurant, we'll
Five
find out.
Guys?
No, I think it would be more of a
Sad
sit down
face.
restaurant. I mean,
Well, because
there's a Five
TGI
Guys.
is going downhill, so TGI's not
Yeah, but they've been
coming
going
back
downhill
either.
for a while. But
It's
there's a
true.
Five Guys right down the street, so I can't see
There
them
is.
putting yeah in that location. I feel like it'll be whether or not a pizza place or whatnot. I mean, they got restaurants in the Pheasant Lane, already.
Meanwhile,
So
Louis Louie's been there since I was a child.
yeah, pretty
Like
much. And I've
I,
never eaten there. I have never eaten at Louis
I
Louis.
have many times. First of all, delicious, and I've been going there since like junior high. So like the mid '90s, and it's fucking good, dude. I can't believe you've never been there. There's a honey baked ham right behind there too.
Yep, I know that.
Um, that I've gone to many times. But Louis Louis, man, is a Daniel Webster Highway monument.
Yeah, it's been
And
there.
we should just go there and be like, Louis Louis, best Italian restaurant in New Hampshire. Wow. People would get pissed.
You're on. All right, hold on. I know you're gone next week, but maybe when you come back and we got time, we need to do this. You sold me on this. My first experience of Louis Louis.
best
We'll have a
best
debate.
Italian restaurant in New Hampshire. Dude, that comment alone, which is unsubstantiated, will piss off so many people who have no idea who we are. And I mean, sure, I guess we'll just have a troll department like on this channel where we're like, you know what? Because you guys, and it'll be all like still photos of Unos too. We'll just or not Unos, they're fucking
Louis,
Louis
right?
Louis. We'll take still photos of it.
We'll be like,
Just
taking the pictures of our food, trying, take pictures of the interior, like,
we'll
oh
have
yeah,
the
this is
same
great place.
music, the same music and shit
I
too.
can't. No, I don't want to get copyrighted. I mean, we'll talk through it because we'll put this. Will actually review because the whole point of the fun spot was we were going to do an arcade podcast, and then it got too long and we forgot, and we're like, "Fuck it, I just want to do some of those pictures." No, no. So there's going to be no music. I'm not getting copyrighted on that shit. Thanks, Share
But
Factory.
you could be like, according to the Guinness World Book Records, it's the best Italian
No, I'm
restaurant.
not telling any lies. According to us, what if I hate it? That's going to be the best debate with me and you. Because if you love it and I hate it, we'll see. So yes,
That's fucking basic Italian food, man. You'll be fine.
I like. It's been so long since I've been to an Italian place. Oh my
Oh,
god.
it's really fucking like it's at least from what I remember, and it's been probably like 15 fucking years since I've walked inside Louis Louis, but it's like one of those Italian restaurants, like super kind of rustic and like even where they put the pizza in the middle of the table, it's like they have like a can of tomatoes like in the middle, so it's like, oh, some old school vintage can of tomatoes that your pizza sits on, and it's kind of just got that vibe, and it's just like I don't know what their business model is. I don't know what has been going on. I mean, they must have the Mike Barnes like School of Business going on, but like that, nothing stops Louis Louis. Not even COVID had any chance of shutting down Louis Louis. Louis Louis has no business still being open in this day and age, and yet I don't know. They must just own that part like historically, like in DW Highway, because and they haven't changed like any of their logos either. It's fucking great.
My god. All
All
right,
right,
so
so there
that's
you
the
go. That's
comp.
my idea.
We're doing it. We'll go to Louis Louis. I'm all for it. Like I said, we have to. It's been a while since seen you. So, but anyhow,
How could you be from Nashua and not have ever fucking gone there? Like, I know you're not from Nashua, but you lived in
I know
Nashua long
I
enough.
grew up until I
Fuck,
was
you went down the
15.
street. You worked down the street from Louis Louis
Yeah, but I
for
don't go that way.
years.
That's like to the that's I don't know. It is what it is, and I don't know. I've eaten in a lot of different places. I probably never should have in Nashua. No, don't worry. You will see this place. I am going to convince Soto to go. We're going to do a lunch there, and then we'll
Yeah.
do a review, and then we're just going to title it "The Best Italian Place in Nashua or New Hampshire." We don't know yet. And then, yeah, let's just see the comments and just, whatever. We need trap. Our goal was five. We said at the end of the year, we want 500 subs on YouTube. We, blah, blah, blah. So let's just bring on the hate. This is
Dude,
what's going to happen.
yeah.
I love it.
We should be just like we should just do like a whole series on like just visiting the shitty places on DW Highway. Like, for example, we could both share a buffalo chicken wrap in the Cumberland Farms parking lot, and then I can
You can have
recount the story of
flashbacks.
how I called you when I broke my vegetarianism as if I was like cheating on my wife and being like, I need to tell somebody Chad, I'm gonna call you right now and tell you that I am eating a buffalo chicken wrap.
Well,
Out of
sweet.
context, that makes no sense to anyone,
No, no. Well,
but you.
we got to get into this now before we get into our main train of thought. All right. So, fucking, I know Mel is probably the only one listening. I know a couple other people joined, but yes, when me and Soto first met, Soto was a vegetarian. Can you
I
believe it?
was.
He was
Yeah.
a vegetarian. And
Yes.
whatever, I did not look down on him. That was his choice. I don't care. People live your lives however. As long as you're not hurting, I always say, as long as you're not hurting anyone else or yourselves, live your life. But yes, early on in our friendship, once we had the first step kind of established, because I know this is early on, um, yeah, I get a random call, and this was at night, if I remember correctly, and if I also remember correctly, you
Yes,
were
it
eating
was.
a roast. Weren't you eating a roast beef? Isn't that the one you caved in?
I'm pretty sure it was a buffalo chicken wrap from
Was it okay?
cause I just couldn't say no because I was starving. And I just was in a place of desperation. And in the middle of that desperation, you were the first person I called. And I didn't have to call you. I could have kept it my
No,
dirty secret.
it's right.
I could have kept it in my dirty secret between me and my Dodge Neon I was probably driving at the fucking time.
Hmm.
Um, but I knew that I was crossing the threshold to the next part of my life, and because it was just there, it was always like I'm gonna eat meat. It's gonna happen, and then I just broke, and it happened
And I was the
in the
one you had
most
to
odd
call out of
places.
everyone,
Yeah,
because
I called you to like almost to confess my sins. Like seriously, in a Cumberland Farms parking lot. You have no idea what's going on in the car next to you when you park in these places, but you never know. Somebody may be having an existential crisis where they are completely destroying their identity and calling the only person in the world that they can tell that to right then and there because they have to tell somebody. So just keep that in mind the next time you're at the convenience store. Um,
and for those who, I
Other
don't know if
people are going
Cumbies
through
is
shit.
national. It's basically a gas station slash convenience store place where you probably don't want to buy a sandwich. Actually, I mean, they could be good. I don't know, but you just
Yeah,
don't
they
think
get the
about going.
job done.
You know what? You're right. I've eaten shit at 7-Eleven, and
It gets the job done. I mean, I wouldn't eat anything on the hot rollers unless I'm like really trying to fuck with myself. Like the only place I've ever gotten food poisoning, okay, was this place called Wawa, and it's down in New Jersey. And when I lived in New Jersey in the late 2000s, where the fuck I lived there, um, my roommate had gone there and purchased a meatball sub, and then subsequently had food poisoning. And so in my toxic like kind of attitude and behavior at the time, I said he was a bitch for getting food poisoning, and so I went to the Wawa and bought the same thing, and then ate that meatball sub to prove to him that I was more like that
you're
my
more a man.
constitution, yeah, that my constitution was just made of better stuff. And so the way I paid for that is I ended up shitting my pants in bed because I had the worst food poisoning I'd ever had. Um, Great pair of pajama pants, probably my favorite pair of pajama pants I've ever had. And you just have a dream that you're shitting, and you're like, that's weird. And then you wake up and you're like, this dream is now a reality. I have actually shit my pants, and not only have I shit my pants, but I also shit the bed, which is rock bottom. So yeah, never try to test out at a convenience store or gas station the limits of food poison because once it gets you, I, I'm telling you, like if you've ever had the pleasure of taking a shit in a shower, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is not. It is a very demeaning experience, and so yes, convenience stores.
Aren't you glad
Cumberland
this is
Farms is
going
one of
on
those.
YouTube unedited? I mean, I know I'm going to edit the other shit for a later date, but these are the stories we share, and we have plenty of
Oh my God, dude, so many, so many. That's just one, and it's all
I know.
true. I wish it wasn't true, but it's true.
But to get back on the main page,
Oh yeah.
today we kind of wanted to talk about ourselves a little bit, not just about everything. We just talked about the last half an hour, but something simple. We both are blockbuster guys, and movies have been in our life since we were kids. And our very first podcast was actually the 10 most influential games. And we kind of went back and forth and why they were influential. And I said, hey, for our first live podcast on YouTube, Why don't we do the same thing but with movies? And because we both know there's one, which will come towards the end, because the number one influential movie is the same for both of us, which we'll get to at the end. But yeah, so we're going to share some of our influential movies and why they were influential to us. So, Soto,
Hmm.
I'm actually have you start. What is the
Sure.
first influential movie on your list that kind of got you into the love with movies?
Oh my gosh. It's like, do I have to do this in order? I have to say
I
it's
hope so because I put
Ra-
the pictures in order.
I'm hoping it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Did I guess it
It
right?
is. It is. It's how you texted me, and you said you could do it in that order. So
Hooray!
yes, the first one is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, oh my goodness. All right, we're off to a great start. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, uh, and I've said this before on previous, podcasts that we've had, is one of the first things I ever saw in my entire life. And it continues to, and as I've seen it now in my 40s, um, it continues to be just a perfect adventure movie. It's got everything you need. It's everything a blockbuster should be. It's got a great main actor who has probably historically probably some of the best presence that you have on screen. I know we've had conversations like this in the past. It's like whether or not an actor makes a movie or it's a director or a writer or everything like that. As I've gotten older, like I kind of tend to lean sometimes more now towards, who your leading role like actors are because I still feel as controversial not that that's what gets people to go to see the movie. And having a good, actor with presence in a movie can really carry it. One of the movies I know we've talked about for doing for Rotten Taste, which we may do next Halloween, is Once Bitten with Jim Carrey.
Hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is that that movie is fucking terrible, and we'll get into it at a later date. But the fact that Jim Carrey is in it does so much for the movie to carry it through because that's how important it is to have somebody that you're like, I like this actor. They're great. Harrison Ford is just absolutely, this is the quintessential Harrison Ford role. This is Harrison Ford to me at his peak. Um, I do tend to like uh, The Last Crusade
Oh, I
as
love
a
it.
better movie,
Oh,
um, and as
not
a
really.
better overall movie. But like, I feel that Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I know that it wasn't always Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that's why I'm referring it to Raiders of the Lost Ark, is just on its own like a fantastic movie that doesn't need, sort of any sequels or anything like that. And the next movie in this trilogy, Temple of Doom, which is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, gets shit on a lot,
Oh, I love
and
it.
I love it. I think it works great as a romantic comedy. It works great as like an overall adventure. Again, there's really really funny moments. Uh, One of my favorite things about Harrison Ford as an actor is that he is fucking hilarious. And as Han Solo as well, which we'll talk about later too, he's fucking hilarious. Like probably one of my first role models, growing up, where it's like I like sarcasm started getting into like my vernacular, like that you could be a character who had quips, right, and had this like kind of witty banter, and it never came across from Harrison Ford as inauthentic. It came across as just inherently cool. And I think that that's such a hard thing to do when it comes to dialogue and when you mix that with an actor. Sometimes it can feel really forced. There are times in the newer trilogy of Star Wars where it's like, the dialogue feels very forced and everything, and even with Harrison Ford. But this is like, this was great from beginning to end. And again, one of the first movies I ever laid eyes on and could comprehend as a film. It's got iconic moments from beginning to end. The Nazis with their face melting at the end is one of
Oh
my
yeah.
sticks with me for the rest of my life. I still don't understand why nobody could look at whatever was in there, but or how Indy knew. I don't know. That's confusing. Maybe I will find out. Maybe I'm not paying attention. Maybe I just need to watch this again. But Razor Lost Ark is just such a great piece of filmmaking, and one that I've always thought about and stuck with me for pretty much my whole entire life. So that's why Raiders is my first pick.
And I agree. I mean, Indiana Jones is such a great movie character. And I'll be honest, I mean, I love the first three films. I don't want to get into the latter two, though one day maybe we do for Ron and Taste Dial of Destiny, because I think we might be able to. I don't know, but that's sidetracking. Um,
Oh no, God no.
I tended go towards and geared more towards some darker movies. I love
Hmm.
that, and this might be a little controversial. And I did love Last Crusade. It is up there. Sean Connery is a friggin' gem. The two of them just work well together, and Raiders are
Hmm.
good. I love Temple the best out of the three. I'm not saying any of them are bad. Trust me, they are all good. I'm not saying either shit, but I think just the darker tone. I do love Short Round. He was great. You know, he was also great as Data in the Goonies. But yeah, so
Hmm.
Indiana Jones, I can definitely see this. You know, especially when we were kids. You know, this is just a character. You just see that hat, you know it's Indy. You know, I think he said it one time. You could just see the shadow of his character, and you know it's Indiana fucking Jones. So
That's top tier filmmaking, top tier character creation. That's, we talked about it in our One Piece video too. It's like when you see Luffy's like silhouette, you know it's Luffy. When you see Indiana Jones and that, you're like, that's how they introduce the character. The first time you see Indiana Jones is a silhouette, and it's so iconic. And I remember a friend of mine back in the day who was in graphic design was always saying that, when you're creating cartoon characters or any characters, if the consumer can recognize them from the silhouette, then that's how you know you have a good one. So,
yeah, this is definitely a very good choice. I mean, there is no, as we're going to talk about, there is no wrong choices. This was very
oh
hard for
no.
us to come up with, you know, just like a handful. And who knows, maybe we'll go down the line, you know, maybe a few more. But yeah, Raiders, the whole trilogy. And I say trilogy, I don't really acknowledge the other two, though they do exist. But yeah, was friggin' awesome.
Are they
I do love.
rotten? Do we know this?
I think Dial of Destiny might be. I don't think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, though. And I'm not
Oh,
100% sure. But I
it's
think
one
when
of the worst
Dial of
things I've ever
Destiny came
seen.
out, I felt like we could touch it. If not, I think
Okay.
we might be able to touch it now with that. So I don't know. We'll look
Okay.
into
More
it.
to come.
So more to come. You know, who knows? But I don't know if I want to watch Dial of Destiny. I mean, it's going to make me cry.
I
It's just
know,
like,
right?
why ruin indie? Why? Why?
We keep all of our things that we loved have been torn down as the years keep going on. I don't know how much more I could take.
So Soto, let me tell you about my first pick. Or my picks in
Nice.
general, I wanted to take out of different aspects of my life. You know, growing up, because I could easily probably pick 5 films from my childhood, and it would be a fucking phenomenal list.
Hmm.
Because you know, 80s and you know just had a lot of good movies. I was huge in the fantasy, adventure, sci-fi, kind of that. And I was trying to think of what movies sum that all up. So let me give you a list of movies that. Oh wait, hold on a sec. What are the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was? Oh, I don't. I can't read the rest of that. There, it kind of got over with your smiley face. Hold on, I gotta see what this guy's. Oh, it was meh. Yes, yes. It was.
It was
It was
meh.
meh.
It was
Meh. I
terrible.
think that was middle. You know, middle. Meh. I think it was worse, but
It was
um,
so bad. It's so bad and sad. And again, to go into that, I think that Dial of Destiny would probably also be sad. I mean, Harrison Ford and fucking the new Star Wars was sad, but I digress.
no, it's all right. And Russ, you know, that yeah, I mean, I can't watch Kingdom of Crystal. I hate Shia LaBeouf too.
Is
I
that the
don't know
one with
what
the
happened.
monkeys?
Yes, yes, that's the one with the
Oh,
monkeys and
and
yes,
people shit on Temple of Doom, man. You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking
Temple
about,
of Doom
dude.
is great. But yeah, I know we might get into Dial of Destiny one day. But I cannot bring myself to watch Dial of Destiny, and I could not bring
Yeah.
myself to watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull again. Like I know it came out what I think 07, 08. I feel I could be
Hmm.
wrong about the dates, and obviously we worked at Blockbuster, and I watched it, and I was like, eh, nothing makes me want to watch that movie again. I could definitely watch the original trilogy. But let me go back to my first pick because I know we got sidetracked. But
As
yes,
always.
it's okay. This is growing up. Fantasy films were my favorite. I loved them.
Hmm.
I got into them. Um, Sci-fi, all that shit, and it was tough for me to figure out a good fantasy adventure to start off with. And like I said, I could have probably done 5. But Soda, let me just give you a list of what I didn't put on that I was debating. Never-ending Story,
Great
Princess
movie.
Bride,
Love it.
Goonies,
So
Labyrinth,
good.
Monster
Awesome.
Squad. I even thought about here. Shout out to my mom's favorite movie, Last Unicorn. Even a hidden gem with a young John Cusack, Journey of Natty Gann. And if no one ever heard or seen that,
That I
it's
have
on
no
Disney
idea about.
Plus. Oh my God, it's a fucking good adventure movie. It was one of the first films I saw as a kid. I love it. Definitely, I like I said, if you got Disney Plus, check it out. So all
Is it
these
John
movies,
Cusack is in
a
this?
very young John Cusack. He's not the star. He's kind of like the side character. But yes, Journey Out
Wow.
Again. I'm just saying it again because I love that film. It's actually it might be up there in one of my favorites for its time. But yeah, so these are
Wow.
movies that I thought about putting on my list for my childhood. But then I always came back to the one. And to me, I feel like there's no other answer for me personally than The Dark Crystal. To me, I
Ooh.
love this film. I think I just mentioned it with Temple of Doom. I love the darker tone. I love Jim Henson. I love the Muppets. I know that's a little bit
Hmm.
different than Dark Crystal, but the story behind this and everything. I just actually watched this morning. Just it's been so many years. I'm like, you know what? Let me watch this before we get on, and I loved it. Um, but the tonality of this movie is great. And I always said, if you loved Dark Crystal as a kid, you are meant to work at a video store. Now, obviously, they don't exist, but you're meant to work at a video store when you're like a teen and adult, young adult, like we did. Like, I love this film. Everything about this was just great. I know storytelling with the fantasy films can get out there, but it's actually it's such an easy plot, just easy to get into. But this is what got me into like the darker tones of movies. And I will say this: everyone talks about in our age group the never-ending story.
Hmm.
Atreyu's horse, Artax, being one of the
Of
saddest
course.
scenes. But I'm like, no, that wasn't it for me. Though that was sad. You do see him at the end. The horse comes back. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen
Yes.
Neverending Story. If you haven't
Oh,
seen
I
Neverending
know,
Story,
right?
fuck you. But the Dark Crystal to me had the saddest scenes, and I don't know how much of this
Yeah.
you remember, where they're
Hmm.
riding the long leg. I don't even know what they're called, and then those freaking beetles with like that armor and claws scared the shit out of me as a kid. You know, they get knocked over with one of the long legs and they die, and then they hover around and they
Yeah.
are like, there's a lot of death in this, and they talk, because they're the last Gelflings, and I don't know. To me, the Dark Crystal sums up everything I love about films. Is like I said, the fantasy stuff, the simple love story. They are the last. It's a little bit of Star Wars because it's weird because you've got like the elders and the Skeksis or whatever, and I know I'm mispronouncing. At the end, they got to
Oh
come. It's like
yeah. Those
it brings
birds.
balance. Once one dies, the other dies. So there's a lot of balance, and someone who doesn't know what's going on is in charge. I laugh because the elders tell Jen, hey, this is what you got to go and do. And like he steps outside and he's like, I don't want to do this alone. And then he looks like,
Hmm.
alone I go. Like that's all it took. I'm like, well, that was a weird line of dialogue, but it's yes. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's perfect dialogue, but the story was kind of perfect. He just saved the world or saved their world basically. But yes, I
Yeah.
rewatched this actually this morning again, and I still love it. So as far as my childhood goes, this is the one movie I had to pick because, and it was tough, but I always come back to it. Like I said, I think just because I love the darker tone of movies, and you'll probably hear that a little bit later, or like I said, just recently,
From the
Temple of Doom.
beginning, you've liked the
Yeah,
darker tone of movies.
this
From the
this
beginning
this
of your life, it
shaped
just
me
spoke to
as a.
you.
They're like, we're gonna start you at 5 because I think this came out in 82, 83. So I don't even know when I first watched this, but we used to watch a lot of these movies, and I watched this again and again, and even the little furball dog I laughed at, and I
Yeah.
just still laugh at. So yes, and I had to pick this, like I said, and it's not just because of the fantasy aspect. It's because a lot of the things I do like a little bit of a darker story, something that's not typical. Even though I joke that there's a little bit Star Wars to it with balance of the good and the bad, but let's forget all about that right there. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, and the
Yeah.
puppetry, I mean, though a little bit off, still kind of works. Like I said, I mean, yeah, it's early '80s, so some of the scenes kind of look fake, but it still looks amazing to me. So, go ahead.
No, it
Uh,
was just like this is one of the first movies that was kind of disturbing to me when I was growing up because it was totally different. Like you expect certain things to have happy endings. There's no happy ending here, at least from what I remember.
Oh, there's a happy ending. It just takes a lot. I mean, but still, people
Yeah.
die. It's not like they're coming back to life at the end.
Right,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, like Artax, like you mentioned. But yeah, I watch this all the time. This is the same exact time I was watching something like another movie called Legend with Tom Cruise and Tim Curry. So watching Dark Crystal, Legend, Never Ending Story was a vibe. But this one was the one that was I wouldn't say I didn't understand it. It was harder to watch for me younger because I didn't understand. I wasn't like the themes and everything like that were a little bit darker than what I was used to. So it took me a little bit to kind of get into it. But what I did though, I mean, it's an absolute masterpiece. I think I actually saw a little bit of the newer one too. And you're right, it all works. Like it's done great, it's done awesome, and definitely worthy of being a classic.
Yeah, and I know I got a few years on you, so hence maybe the age at that time when this came out. But and I get it, and I understand why not everyone might love this movie, and it's
Hmm.
okay, because especially if you're used to, like you said, the happy, movies, happy endings. There is a happy ending because he did bring balance, and the Sketskis and the elders kind of combine to become one, and he's got his love interest. He finds out he's not alone, she's not alone, so whatever happens to them. So there is a happy ending, but yes, a lot of people die. Their whole clan got murdered in a fire, and things are
Yeah,
happening, and there's
yeah.
kidnappings, and so there's even, like I said, at the time it was more acceptable, I guess, in the '80s, just to be like, yeah, we're gonna put a stake through your heart. But I think I loved it, and I was happy with this, and I still, like I said, I just watched it again, and it made me smile. I'm like, this is a fucking good movie, and I had to put this as one of the first films that I ever loved. Though there was a lot, like I said, it was a tough choice because there was a lot of movies that came out when we were kids that we could have put and easily talked about, but to me, that sums up my childhood out of all of them.
Yeah.
So, oh my god,
Yeah, yeah, no, Dark Crystal is definitely, I mean, again, like I said, just I was not used to seeing things die at the time that
yeah,
I watched that. You know, that was huge.
it was. So, all right, well, let's go to your next pick. So we started off
Oh,
with Raiders
this
of
is
the
gonna be
Lost
a thing.
Ark. This is going to be a thing that I think we got to try and contain a little bit, but go ahead. Again, I give the floor to you.
Uh-huh. Being able to contain this thing called Star Wars.
Star Wars?
Holy
I've
moly.
never heard of it, Soto. Tell me about Star Wars. No.
Yeah, it's actually an indie film from like the 70s, late 70s. And it was all like done with models and everything like that. It's a science fiction movie. Yeah, Star Wars, holy shit, where do I even start? Um, One of the, again, that was the same time I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and was just going through that whole situation of just kind of understanding movies. But man, oh man, I watched Star Wars a lot when I was a fucking kid. I watched it all the fucking time. I was obsessed with the whole like vibe of it, the whole like science fiction part of it. Again, Harrison Ford, no coincidence, amazing here. One of my first role models of being I think to the asshole that I ended up turning into as an adult. I have to blame Han Solo because I thought that that was cool, and the older I've gotten, it's actually not cool to be like Han Solo at all. But yeah, dude, Star Wars, holy shit, it's dominated my life. From my opinions of the OG trilogy to my well-known opinions about the prequels, and also my opinions about the new movies too. Which one day,
We'll get to
hopefully,
it.
one day we'll get to it. We'll be you and Madness. We'll literally talk about every single movie in the
Order.
canon, but in order, which will require me to have a lot of beer. But we'll get to that. But yeah, Star Wars was such a huge part of my life. I had the toys, I had everything, um, and even some of the anime that I was watching in the '80s too was influenced by Star Wars too, and it's just such an iconic, you know, part of film history, um, that for me kind of I think launched the whole entire franchise thing that we see today, about movies being blockbusters and having huge cultural impacts, and this is a movie that did. And it's I was born in the early '80s, so obviously I saw this right when I was like really really young, and even to watching the Acolyte trailer that just came out yesterday, like I'm still thinking about Star Wars. So I could go on for hours about Star Wars and all of my opinions, but I think it speaks for itself, and I'm one of those people that also is part of the train of being like Star Wars was hugely influential to what I thought cinema is, and really Star Wars is a big reason is why I even watch movies to begin with.
And I do agree. This was a tough one to keep off my list as well. And I like you, I grew up Star Wars fan. I had a lot of the toys. So it is, and the original trilogy. I know some people might shit on Return of the Jedi, but I'm like, it was a perfect end to that trilogy. I mean, to have a happy ending like that. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
it's
nothing
supposed
wrong
to
with
like
it.
Empire. No, no, there's not. But some people are like, "Fucking Ewoks." I'm like, you've seen so many creatures throughout this trilogy. I'm like, you're pissed about the little Chewies. I know it's not the same, species, but still. And whatever. I know it's a little bit more for kid friendly, but still, every part, every movie was perfect as a kid. Now I know we can pick apart some parts, and watching as adults, you'd be like, huh. Oh, here we go. Sorry, Matt has just joined the chat. What's the next film we discuss? So he's just popped in right in time for Star Wars. Uh, but yeah,
Oh
so
man, that would
no,
be
no.
a
I
great
mean,
podcast.
Star Wars is definitely was influential to a lot of people our age.
Hmm.
Because it was kind of the first real blockbuster that had a story that continued from movie to movie to movie. It's not like we can just pick up at Return of the Jedi and expect to know what's going on. You kind of need to see all three to understand these characters and stuff like that. And yes, Han Solo, one of the best characters ever, and obviously Luke, we all wanted to kind of be the good guy that saves the day. Um,
Not me.
well,
I
they
want to be
all
Han
save the
Solo.
day.
God damn it! I
I'm
was
always
like,
the clean cut good guys between him and Leonardo and stuff like that. I mean, it's just the way we work. But yes,
yeah.
we talked about the Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. I got to be the clean cut
Oh,
guy.
so
I don't
I
know
was a
why, but it's
warrior
also,
guy, dude.
but again, it was my age group and stuff like that, and it's just I mean, and plus I love the lightsabers, so you just come out, shoot a gun, but anyhow, yes, no, Star Wars is a great film, and we could talk about this again and again, and hopefully someday we do talk about some of the other films that we've watched or haven't watched, I should say, that we need to discuss with Madness, like the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. We should at least finish out the prequels one day. But no, Star Wars is a.
Oh,
If
God.
you are a filmmaker and a film fan, this definitely
Yeah.
heavily influenced us. If you're our age group, because it's just also just visually stunning. I mean, just everything. You're just amazed and you're just into this world and stuff like that. So,
It's
yeah.
one of those things where it's like this is a film franchise that is literally generational. Like generations have different opinions about where they are in this franchise. Like for you and I, 4, 5, and 6, like that's what we grew up on. For the people that grew up like in the 90s, that prequel trilogy is the first Star Wars that they ever saw, and they
Mm,
loved it.
yep.
And then both of us can agree, both generations typically agree that the new ones are fucking shit. So we
Yeah.
don't agree on like which one's better, the OG trilogy or the prequel. Well, first of all, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but I won't get into that. I'm not gonna troll anybody right now. But the new movies are like absolutely dog shit, except for Force Awakens, which is watchable. But it's just we agree that the way that that ended was probably not the best way.
No, no, but it happened. So, oh my god. But yeah, no, Star Wars, good pick. And yes, and if you're listening, Phantom Menace, we have a Rotten Taste episode of it with Madness here. You'll hear more about between the OGs and the newer, or the prequels, excuse me, I almost said newer trilogies. Let's not get that wrong. Um, but yes, I think
Don't
we
start
we will.
a
May,
war.
we have May 4th coming up. Maybe we do Attack of the Clones. Figure that shit out. So
May the 4th? Okay, yeah, maybe I don't know.
if
I
we
don't
if we
know.
got
I'd
if we
like
got
to
time, let's say we got a little bit on our schedule, but maybe we can figure out what we're gonna say. With
I was just saying, like, I'm just trying to think of which Star Wars movies we would watch. Like, I guess you're right. We have to finish with the prequels and go there,
Oh, if we have
but
Madness join us, we yes, we got to do the
yeah.
prequels. We got to finish the prequels. It's well,
Oh,
actually, we got to see if it qualifies. I don't know if it's under, if it's now under 60%. So
oh no,
well,
it's beyond that. We got to have this conversation. I don't care
well,
what it's rated. You know what I mean?
which is I know,
Fuck it.
but you mentioned with Star Wars that you kind of you came around after it was in theaters and stuff like that, but you still kind of
Yeah.
obviously enjoyed it. Um,
Oh yeah.
my next pick, I'm kind of cheating with a little bit. And
Oh.
it's well because it is a pick, but that led to another franchise that I love dearly. But more importantly, I picked this film because it is the first film that I can remember seeing in theaters that was like a blockbuster that made me just love the theater experience. Now, I know my parents took me to see E.T. That was considered my first film. I don't remember that shit. I was 4 when E.T. came out in theaters. I know that officially. I actually remember seeing the original animated Transformers movie in theaters. I remember
Oh,
seeing
cool.
GoBots versus the Rock
Oh, the
People.
GoBots.
I saw
Yes.
that in theaters. I even saw my grandma used to take me to the National Mall theaters and we would see movies. I saw Spaceballs in the theater. She took me to see Spaceballs. But the movie that I
Wow.
am picking was the first, I guess, more adult film, action film that I saw in theaters. And I was like, holy shit, I love going to the theater. There was just something about seeing something on the big screen. And it led to a franchise that I've watched pretty much every film of, though I know I haven't watched the last few because I think we joke about it. I've fallen out of love with movies a little bit. But I saw the James Bond movie, The Living Daylights, in movie theaters. This was the first kind of big
So
action.
random.
This is random, and this isn't even my most favorite Bond film. But once I saw Timothy Dalton in this, there's a lot of good action sequences. I remember from like the net coming out of the helicopter. I went and tried to watch every friggin' Bond film I could, from the original Doctor
Wow.
No to
How many are
Goldfinger.
there?
Uh,
Like 20?
well, now there's more. I because let's see. Hold on. Sean Connery did 7. Roger Moore did 6. 13. George Lazenby did 1. 14. Timothy Dalton did 2. 16. Pierce Bronson did 4. 20. And then Daniel Craig, I think, just did his fifth or sixth. I saw the first two, the Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. So I don't know. So there's 20 when it ended with Pierce Bronson. Um, but I love this franchise. I became a huge James Bond fan. And what I love about this is not like you have to see one to like the other. You know, each one kind of stands alone. There is little tidbits that they bring on long, even years to come. I don't know if you ever watch James Bond movies. I don't know if you ever reference James Bond here, like talk about how he was married once, and that was actually in like the George Lazenby one, an older one called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was this one actor who kind of, in between Sean Connery and Roger Moore, so he was kind of the forgotten one. But it's one of my favorite Bonds, and it's very personal. But his wife dies after they get married in a honeymoon. They gun her down, so it
What?
gets brought. Yes, he was married once, and this kind of gets brought up. So, but it's never fully talked about on the ones. They just James Bond was married. So, but as a series as a whole, I just love the gadgets, Q, everything. The action sequences got better within time, obviously. But like Doctor No, it is a very slow movie. But then the second one, From Russia with Love, oh, phenomenal. The train scene was great. Obviously, most people love Goldfinger as far as the old ones because you got Odd Job, with the hat, and then so it gets a little
Yes.
crazier. And yes, there is some shit ones. Like I remember Man with the Golden Gun, horrible. But this is the movie that I saw in theaters that made me love a franchise, but also more importantly, just love the theater experience. Because again, this was the sound, the action, everything was there. People were excited because, like I said, mainly I saw cartoons. Spaceballs was just a random one, and I don't know which might have came out first. I just remember seeing it. My grandma, like I said, used to always take me to the theaters or the National Mall when it was actually a mall, not what it is now. But so yes,
I remember
I'm
that.
kind of
Yeah.
cheating with this one because it is the one that got me excited for theaters, but it also is the one that got me into a whole franchise, and it's one of my favorite franchises ever. I love all the people who played Bond. Each one kind of brings something new, and I'm okay with that. Like I
Hmm.
said, I kind of need to catch up on the last couple of Daniel Craig's, but that's my fault. Again, I just once I left Blockbuster, I just kind of stopped with movies, but I would still need to kind of catch up on that. But I have seen pretty much every film up until through Pierce Bronson, 1 through 20. And if my count is correct, there's 20. I could be off by one. I don't know, but
That's so many movies.
they're a lot of them were great. Now there is some shit. Do not get me wrong. There is some shit, but yeah, I love this franchise. So yes, I am cheating a little bit because it might not be one in general, but it is the one that got me loving going to the movie theaters the most. Not just to see maybe a cartoon I love or just something funny. Like it was just everything. Like I was just engrossed in it, and after that, I saw so many movies in theaters after that. So yes,
So,
go ahead.
okay, Living Daylights. This had Timothy Dalton, right?
This
Is
was
that his
his.
name?
This is the first one he did. Then he did. I forget what it's
Because he was
called
kind of
though. So
short-lived, right?
he
Like he was
only
a
he only
short-lived
did
Bond.
2. Well, yes, because he only did 2. They wanted Pierce Bronson, but he was doing another film and couldn't commit to it. So Timothy
Mrs.
Dalton
Doubtfire.
did, maybe I don't know, but so this was the first one. License to Kill was the second one, which was more of a darker, personal one.
Oh
One of his
yeah, I
friend.
remember
Yeah, so
that.
some people didn't like it. I still remember being good, but this one had the action, and I'm okay with Timothy Dalton. I mean, again, maybe it's a little biased because he was my first Bond, and you always remember your first anything. I don't care what you say. Oh yeah, see, I was
Hmm.
right. Five with Daniel Craig. Thanks, man. It's 25 altogether. So my number was correct because it's got to be,
Bro.
yeah. Because I know that he just did the fifth one. He didn't want to do it, but I'm sure they paid him a shit ton of money. Um, but anyhow, yeah. So this is the movie. I saw it in theaters. I was with my grandma, and I loved it. And I know we just kind of joked about this at the beginning of the podcast. I always liked having popcorn. I still do, but I eat it pretty much right there in the previews before the movie starts. Because I'm just like, it gives me something to do. I love the butter and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, so I am cheating. It's not like I said, it's not one of my favorite Bond films. It is a good film. I do like it. I will rewatch this anytime it's on. And I know it's kind of weird, but this kind of represents the franchise as a whole to me. But more importantly, this is what got me to love and theater experience. So in a way, this was
Wow.
influential, just in a very different way. So yeah,
Yeah.
I knew I had to cheat with this one because I'm just like I have to. I remember seeing this in theaters and I remember loving it and I just remember a lot of that. So
I don't
and it
think it's
always
so
stuck.
much cheating. I mean, it's part of, I mean, it is what it is. Like,
Oh, I
that's an
know.
influential movie, that no matter what part of a franchise it is. I mean, I never got into James Bond. James Bond to me was always my dad's thing. So I was always like, okay, yeah, my dad likes James Bond. And so that inherently made it uncool for me. Um,
Uh,
because it's like that's like what old men watch is like fucking James
oh,
Bond.
thanks.
And so well, we're old now. So yeah, I just never got into it. I never got it. I've seen it from time to time, and I've seen the Sean Connery stuff, and I think probably the only James Bond movie that I remember seeing when I was a little kid was like I want to say it's called like Moonraker or something like that,
Yes.
and it's got this guy with like metal jaws in it and
Trap.
shit.
Yeah, I almost said trap. Is it
Um,
Trap Jaw? Oh my
no,
God, why
that's
can't I
I think
remember?
that's He-Man.
Yeah, no, it is.
I
It
think his
is.
name was Jaws. I want to say it was
I think it was
Jaws.
just Jaws. I think you are correct, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Roger Moore. So that was like more of a ridiculous like James Bond movie, I think, because there was like outer space shit. But it just never connected to me, right? So it's like it depends on where you are in your life and how you hit certain movies we've talked about. It's just where you are and what your mentality is like is how a movie's going to resonate with you, I think. And
Oh, I agree.
I just wasn't, I just never caught me. Like I never was like, oh, I gotta watch it. And I bought my dad. I think I bought my dad collections of this shit, like on VHS.
I owned every VHS through Pierce Bronson. So I had like the
My
collection.
God.
Then they went to DVDs, and I was like, I don't know if I want to spend the money on this. But yes, I had a friend that worked like at it wasn't a Suncoast, but he worked in Minnesota when I lived there, like basically kind of like a Suncoast Spencer. It's just one of those kind of Empire record fields, but with movies. And he let me use his discount because he actually, I gave him the money and he bought like yeah. So I got the complete set. Then I bought everything after, but I owned everyone through the Pierce Bronson on VHS. Oh man, but yeah, I love Bond, and
Wow.
I do need to catch up on the Daniel Craig's, but I need to watch movies. But I digress. That is me.
You do need to watch movies. This will be addressed at a later date, but we need to discuss about your like what's going on with you in movies lately.
It's just we're old men. I need time. Though I did watch The Dark Crystal, like I said this morning, so I do watch movies. It's just like I'm not rushing to watch anything new. I could care less for the most part. I mean, and I do occasionally. It's just not like when we were at Blockbuster. We were watching what 7, 10 a week, and just because
Yeah.
we got them for free and we had the time, we'd
Hmm.
eat dinner, put on a movie, just be like, hey, yeah, this movie's good. Oh, this movie's shit, because it was free, and I didn't feel like it wasted like an hour and a half of my life. Now I just don't want to waste like an hour and a half of my life. I'm like, this could be shit. No, I'm just not rushing to get it, but I do occasionally watch it. It's not like I used to be. So, but anyhow, let's get off Bond. Let's move on. So you've talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark. You talked about Star
Yeah.
Wars. What
Hmm.
is your next most influential film to you?
Yeah. So for me, a lot of what I love right now, as far as media goes, I'm a humongous anime fan, and a lot of like, I started off watching movies, and I remember watching just again seeing all sorts of media. I was a big Disney kid too, so I was used to like hand drawn stuff. So I watched a lot of Disney movies. I watched it all. But when it comes from like a visual standpoint, as far as like kind of like what matched the aesthetic that I like. So I started getting a little bit older. I had seen things that were kind of cyberpunky. And I just kind of was like, okay, experimenting with, where animation could go. And then, speaking of Suncoast, I ended up buying off the shelf a movie called Akira, which was a Japanese animated movie from the 80s. And I ended up buying it from Suncoast, and I ended up watching it, and it just blew me the fuck away. And as confusing as this movie is, and even still very confusing, I just watched it the other night as well. Uh, it was just visually one of the craziest things I had ever seen. Um, I had seen some anime growing up, like I'd seen some Robotech, which is known as Macross as well. I had seen this one called Unico. I also watched The Last Unicorn. I watched that was part of the Rankin Bass though, so that was the same people that made like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And Rankin Bass actually did Thundercats too. That's why the animation is kind of similar. But Akira was just on a whole nother level, and just rewatching it the other day too. The fact that like this entire project, the guy who did the manga, he actually wrote and directed this as well, and every single scene that you see is all hand painted. It's all done by hand. It's really it's art, but it's also craft at the same time, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Storyline, whatever. It is a convoluted mess. I think they tried to get a lot of what was going on in the manga down to like a 2 hour movie. Who knows what was going on, or maybe that was the intention, but it's kind of messy. But from visually, it's just absolutely stunning. And even rewatching it now with the original streamlined dub, which I feel is the only way to watch Akira. Um, Trivia alert: the guy who voices this dude with the pill on his back is also, I believe, the voice actor of Leonardo in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
The
animated
live
series
act.
that
Oh,
we
the
grew up
anime.
with.
Okay.
Yes, the animated ones that we grew up with, the old school one.
Yeah.
And also, I think if you've ever played Metal Gear games, I think he was Liquid Snake too. Anyways, but I love the voice acting. It was perfectly 80s. It was great. And even now, playing through like Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of these aesthetics that I love started in kind of the cyberpunk idea of Akira. So huge for me. Started my love for anime as well, which is huge. And is carried over to other Studio Ghibli stuff like Howl's Moving Castle and all that good stuff, and Spirited Away. So I love Akira. I will continue to rewatch it. Hopefully, I'll know what's going on in the story more and more as I continue to watch it. I feel like I picked up on a little bit more. So maybe another 10 years I'll start to understand it. But visually, though, it's really tough to top this.
No, it's stunning. I remember the first time I saw this. A few of us went to a friend's house, and he was big in anime, and this was actually the very first anime I ever saw. And
Wow.
visually, you're correct. It is stunning, and there's scenes, and I love it. But you're right. The story, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck happened. And I've watched it a couple times since then, and like you,
I
I
just watched
probably
it.
not as probably not as much as you, but like I picked up a little bit more and more. And I'm like, oh my god, I feel like it's a Final Fantasy game. It's just so convoluted. There's so much. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm in this ride. I do enjoy it, and
I don't know
I'm
what's
not
going on,
into.
but I like it.
I know I'm not into anime as much as you, but this is the one that I started watching a little bit more. And even when Blockbuster, like you said, The Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, I know there's a few
Hmm.
others. Well, all those films I started watching. Um, but yeah, Kira to me is just. I'm just amazed by how great this looks. It
Hmm.
blows a lot of things still today out of the water.
Oh
And
yeah.
I agree. Like I said, if I was into anime like you, this probably would be my pick. Like I said, I remember watching this and I watched it a few times. I think I might. I know I own it. I might have to watch this again and be like, all right, let's see if I can understand the story. We'll have to like talk about this. But no, it is by far just it was well drawn, and this was also my first taking to anime. So, oh my god. But
Well,
yes, I'm with you. The story is so fucking confusing.
and that's the thing is that like if you when you rewatch a movie, I love rewatching movies. I know you do too. But there's a pressure on you when you watch a movie for the first time. And so you're watching the movie for the first time, it's played in front of you, and your mind is trying to figure out what's going on It's trying to see if you can like figure out the plot. It's trying to see where the movie's going. It's going along for the ride. But when you rewatch something over and over and over again, it frees you up to just be like, you know what? I don't know what the story is here. I'm just going to watch this as a visual demonstration, right? Purely
Yep.
visual demonstration with some words and everything like that. I'm just going to appreciate what I'm looking at. And when I do it that way, and I did this the other day, I just had that kind of mindset, it made me feel more comfortable with like leaning more into how much I love this movie. So I think that just again, I know that we talk about how storyline is very important in some of these movies that we watch, but how movie, the overall experience and everything, visual feast, all that stuff, that also has merit too. So I think that really goes in favor of giving this movie a rewatch. Just watch, just be like, I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. I'm just gonna watch it and go, okay, oh that's cool. Oh wow, they did that. Okay, great. And then it's done, and then it's much better. But it does even now feel a little bit like, especially towards the end, it kind of does. The pacing kind of falls off a little bit, and it feels longer than I think the movie is. But still a great movie though.
It is. And Matt disagrees. He watched it and he's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on either. So he's in agreement to the fact that this is a tough story to follow,
It's fucking
but it
weird. It
is,
just is.
but it definitely is one of the best to kind of watch. So,
It's a work
oh
of
my,
art.
it is.
100%. It's a work
I
of
can
art.
easily say that. My friend actually got me, whoops, two figures, and and yeah, so I have Kaneda and I think Tetsuo in there. I can see them right
Yes.
now. And originally, I actually had them still in the packaging, and I'm like, I'm never gonna, and you know me, I was like, I'm never gonna sell these. My friend got them for me. I want to keep them, blah blah blah. So and I took them out. But yeah, it is like I said, just visually one of the best films I think I've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
still to this day.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, my going on my next film. I though it came out in 1985. I was trying to figure out a good 80s film, for my list. I don't think I saw this until junior high, so more early 90s. And there's
Okay.
a reason why my parents probably didn't allow me to see it. I understand why. Also, probably something they might not have enjoyed as much, because we talked about some of the 80s movies I saw, but
It's our
we've talked
era.
about
That's
we've
our
talked about a
era. We,
lot.
we
But to me, I love watching this film again. Again, I actually think I just watched this probably like a month or two ago. I just pulled it up on Netflix or whatever it was. But my next influential movie, I would have to say, hands down, is The Breakfast Club. Um, I
oh,
love this movie.
fantastic.
I know I've said this countless times.
So good.
Um, I love movies that are simple. There's not much to this, just five students on a Saturday detention. No overly, sets, nothing. You just put the five actors together, put the stories, and just click. And I also love movies that kind of break stereotypes. And
Mm-hmm.
that was huge for this film back then because, yes, I know maybe times have got a little bit better, but when we were, it was simple, and it was true whether we liked it or not. The jocks, were kind of kept to themselves. They would never really interact with the nerds, which kind of was where I was at. You have, basically the troublemakers, the drug addicts, the weirdos, and the princesses, but then there's so many
Mm-hmm.
more. But it took these stereotypes, and once they kind of broke that down, that they're all not maybe the same, but they're all going through their own problems. Like they kind of just saw, all right, maybe there isn't much difference. And I know I might get shit on. It's why I watched Glee for the first, few seasons. Because yes, I know it's a lot of song and dance too, but the stereotypes is in that show as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
just loved how they pushed it. Breakfast Club to me, like I said, it's simple storytelling. Movies kind of like, and I know you're not a fan of it, but like Saw, Cube. Actually, one of my no, because
Saw.
again, sense, but another movie I almost put on my list, Before Sunrise. Basically, you have Ethan Hawke,
That's a
Julie
great
Delpy.
movie.
I know, but I'm just saying that's another simple movie. If you look at the credits to Before Sunrise, it's basically their character's name, and all the other people don't have names. Those two just carried the film. That's this is,
So good.
but yeah. So this is the start because again, they didn't have to tell an elaborate story. They just had to tell characters, and it worked. All these actors are perfect for these roles. And I can watch The Breakfast Club again and again. It's always in my top five. It's usually number four. I have a consistent top three. Two are coming later on. But Breakfast Club, I usually always put number four as my top five movies. It's my favorite 80s movie. The soundtrack is friggin' amazing. Every
It's awesome.
time every time I hear "Don't you forget about me" in the car, and it gets right at the end, my fist is fucking in the air. I know people, talk about the Wayne's World, Bohemian Rhapsody. I get that, but when I hear the song, I don't care where I am.
Yeah.
If I hear that, I just have my fist up, and I think Judd Nelson, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is just perfect. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean John Hughes was big in these mid '80s. I know he had The Pretty in
Of
Pink.
course.
I know he had
Yeah.
16 Candles, but out of all that, to me, this was the best one. This is my favorite. And I can watch this again and again and love it. Some things might not hold up well today,
Hmm.
but that was the '80s. But still, especially for people that grew up in that era, to me, this is just a perfect '80s movie. I love it, and to me, I was in junior high when I saw this, and I think that's got what got me starting more into storytelling, into more character work. But again, I just loved it. It was simple. There was, and I know I'm kind of a broken record. I love that in film. So yeah, to me, The
Hmm.
Breakfast Club was very influential, especially going into my high school years. So it fit. I think I also just watched it at the right time. I mean, this came out when I was 7. If I'm watching a movie about drug use and marijuana and drinking and this and that and ripping out, bullying and all that stuff, I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But because I think I saw it in later in life, it resonated more with me. So yeah, that's my next pick. I love this film and I'll defend it to death. So, oh,
I mean, Ali Sheedy was like such a crush of mine, like growing up, like between this and fucking Short Circuit. I was
I
like
love Short
fucking
Circuit.
loving me some Ali Sheedy. I just don't understand why she had to lose the gothiness at the end. And as I've grown up, I'm just like, come on. I was like, I
So
liked gothy Ali Sheedy. Why did she
now
become
it's
all?
funny. I
Why did she
actually
have a
know.
glow up? Why did she
All
have a
right.
glow up? That's all
Okay.
I'm asking.
All right. So I'm not going to say what my opinion of this is right. And it's funny because I thought about this because, this is the big debate, because in a movie talking about stay who you are. But here's my thought, and whether or not you like it or not, there's two things behind this. One, why she
Hmm.
allows Molly Ringwald to do it, and because Molly says, "Because you let me, because you're letting me,"
Hmm.
and I think that was just
Yeah.
like it wasn't forced. She just wants. It was like a genuine friend. But Ali Sheedy's character, if you remember, everyone their parents are dropping them off. Blah 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 with Ali Sheedy, if you remember, her dad and mom drop her off. She gets out of the car. She's looking like, hey, I love you, talk. And then they drive off. There's not a goodbye. There's not, hey, whatever. They don't even look at her. Everyone else kind of
Mm.
has like, hey, why, you're here, you do your homework. Oh, you think what you've done. The parents just leave. I think part of she was goth just because she did not have I'm going to use the mother figure who just helped her with things. So to me, she looks at, yes, she could have stayed goth, but I think having someone teach her about makeup and, kind of just be a different person, she's like, I could be okay with myself like this too. And I think there's a little of that when she looks at Emilio Estevez and she's like, what? Is there something wrong? She did this. And he's like, no, you're still beautiful. It's that still. He's like, he liked her before, he still likes her now. But yeah, she just like, okay, I can be, she always wanted to be different. But I don't think she had that household where she was, and I hate to say this, taught, how to be a girly girl. And I know that's a little insensitive nowadays, but you know what I mean, So,
Hmm.
yes, I do. I did love, I do love how her in Short Circuit was friggin' great. She's great in this. Um, but I think that was part of it. Now, whether or not you like it or not, emo, Ali Sheedy is great. With the hair and stuff like that, and she didn't even need to be there. That was the funniest thing. She's like, I had nothing better to do. That's what she says. All these guys got in
Yes.
trouble, and the funny thing is, the principal didn't care. She was there. She wasn't on like the Saturday detention list. She just showed up. She's like, "What the fuck else am
Hmm.
I going to do?" And that was the
Yep.
best answer out of all of them. But yeah, I mean, going back the scenes and stuff like that, just Anthony Michael Hall talking about suicide, gun, he couldn't have an F in shop, and the whole joke is, he thought shop was easy. Turns out to be a flare gun. I mean, I'm not making light of suicide, but
Right,
then they
right,
have
right.
that funny moment like you took a
Yeah,
flare
yeah,
gun,
yeah.
it went off in your locker, and they all laugh and they break from this thing, but they all have those moments. Just they you know can't live up to what their parents, think of them and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think my
Yeah,
opinion
that's
of Ellie
awesome.
Sheedy, she just wanted to test it out. Maybe that is the only thing. Again, today, whatever, she could have stayed the same way, but I just don't think it was forced upon her. She wanted to do it, you know. Um, Molly Ringwald was willing to help, and it wasn't like she was forcing her to do it. And I think she liked it. She's like, oh, I can care about what I look like. I can kind of, try things out instead of just like I'm a weirdo, nobody likes me. So that's my
I
explanation. Whether or
mean,
not you like it or not, I
I can't
mean,
argue with it. I can't
yeah,
argue with it. That
yeah.
was yeah, way to like be on internet and bring a reasoned adult opinion into it. How dare you?
Oh, we're adults. We're the cranky old men.
No, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, dude, it's just so great. Such a great movie, and it's such a great pick.
So what is your next pick? Let's get to that.
Oh,
What's the next?
jeez.
What's an influential movie? Another one for you, Soto.
Oh, this movie is perfect in every fucking way. It just is, and I consider it a perfect movie. I know that I saw a clip of Quentin Tarantino the other day saying that it was a perfect movie. I agree 100%, and this movie is the original Back to the Future, starring
Ooh.
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah,
So good.
I know it's one of your favorite ones, and it's
We've talked
another good
about
one.
it.
Yeah, we've talked about it a
We've
few
talked
times.
about it. We've played the games that like are unofficial sequels. I don't even know if they're canon or anything like that. But Back to the Future for me again huge. I talk about it all the time and make the joke is the first movie that I really kind of like started being like, wait, what the fuck does to be continued mean? Because at the end of this, when they fly off in the DeLorean, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Back to the Future, then you don't watch movies. Um, it was like to be continued, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? When do I ever see this again? But if it was never to be continued, and I actually feel like to be continued, like the sequels kind of hurt this franchise. That's a topic for a different day.
Yeah,
But the first movie, as its own singular movie, is perfect in every single way. Everything, all the beats, him going back in time. The special effects were also pretty fucking good in this. Again, speaking about a lead that was absolutely perfect, Michael J. Fox was awesome. I'm glad that they didn't do Eric Stoltz. I just don't
me
think
too.
Eric Stoltz would have worked in this situation. Although I do like Eric Stoltz in a movie that we're going to be talking about later down the line.
Yes.
But to me, Back to the Future, the whole entire story, the lore, everything is absolutely perfect. It's tough to say a lot about Back to the Future because I feel like we've talked about it so many fucking times. Mm, as I have my water. We've discussed how it's got the whole main character syndrome where it's like Marty McFly doesn't learn a lesson. He just ends up like getting out of the situation, and so he kind of leads like how you should be in the movie too. And it's great. So many moments. I mean, to me, one of the most iconic moments of my life is when he's about to disappear, and then everything is good. Like George McFly, like punches that dude or pushes him aside, and takes his girl, and then all of a sudden Marty just like jumps up and it's like hits like the first like chord of Earth Angel and shit like that. It's like everything's gonna be great. That shit is so iconic.
Hmm.
Just the whole entire fucking movie is just perfect. I have watched this movie in college. I used to watch this movie every single day. I shit you not. I would watch it with coffee every single fucking day. And every day I would find new things. I'd find new whatever to see. Um, I've literally seen this movie. I must have seen it like at least 1,000 times. There's no way I haven't. And it is great every single time it comes on. If it comes on now, I watch it. I don't need to rewatch this movie for to talk about it because it's just so ingrained in my brain. But um, everything from the relationship with Marty, like, and the whole vibe, and just the way the plot is, it's so fucking tight and it's wrapped up. Everything's done really, really well, and it does open up obviously for a sequel. But like I said, even if it never got a sequel, it would have been perfect just the way it
Yeah.
is. So huge movie, huge part of my life, continues to be, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
No, and it's a great '80s movie. It's hard to, I mean, yes, you could pick apart, well, time travel and stuff like that, but if you just have fun with it, it's just so enjoyable. And Yeah,
if you set a
think
rule for it and follow it, yeah. Like, do you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like set the rule. Like,
Don't
not
don't,
unlike
don't overthink
fucking
it.
like Lost, okay? Like when we just talked about this, it's like don't introduce a really cool concept and then don't follow through with it. Like, stop. That's fucking annoying. Like, I really liked when it started fucking with the future shit, but have you know what I mean? It's
Guidelines.
like have an idea, have a guideline, and it just works so well. It's funny that like this is how I'm gonna end my two ones here because like this has a part two, and my next pick. As far as I won't get into the time travel stuff too much, but goddamn, dude, it's so
Yeah,
good. I love me some Back to the Future.
it is. And yes, I remember seeing the sequels in theaters because I remember seeing the second one and then seeing a preview to like the third one, and that, I mean, not saying it was great, but that blew my mind because they were already working on the third one. So it was like, hey,
They're
you
filmed at the
know,
same time.
they were. So, uh,
Yeah. So
oh,
yeah.
well, we got, hey, Cranky, thanks for joining our live stream in our chat. We're just chatting movies, some of the influential ones. Um, and which brings me to my next one. Now, I
Oh,
know I talked about, junior high and stuff like that. To me, came out in 1995, so high school, but this is the movie that got me into doing a twist right and then doing storytelling correctly. And
oh,
so there, I know we got one later on, which was probably one of the most unique storytelling, but this one's one of my favorite movies. It's always in my top three, and I had to add it here. I almost wanted to put Memento here, but that kind of came out in 2000. I love the way that's told, but my pick for an influential movie is The Usual Suspects. I love, 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 love this fucking film. Um,
yeah.
it's it's done just for a big twist at the end, but two
Mm-hmm.
things: they kind of swerve you, because they make you feel it's one way, and they pull the rug out from under you and give you that big twist at the end. But to me, it's not having to twist for a twist's sake. It all makes sense. And throughout the story, it's built up, as far as, why these five criminals came together. Another, kind of like The Breakfast Club, just a perfectly cast movie. Stephen Baldwin can't even ruin this movie for me. He was perfect in the role he did. I was just like, oh my God, this fits. And I'm talking about a guy who did Biodome. Um, but yeah, so I mean, just the way this movie's put together does make you way to think one thing, even if it's all
Mm-hmm.
true. I know people have different aspects of how the ending might work, but Chaz Palminteri just at the end as he's figuring it out and just be like, he's just been taken for this whole film. I don't know. I mean, to me, this was just a perfect storytelling movie. I felt like every scene had a purpose. Another movie I think I just watched within the last couple months, sometime this year, and I was just like blown away because watching it a second time, once you know what happens, the infamous "Who is Kaiser Sose,"
Oh,
watching it
huge.
again and kind of seeing little things here and there, it's always fun. But I had to, when this film came out when I started doing writing, I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
write my own scripts and stuff like that. And this is the second movie I know. We'll get to the first one later, but this is the second movie that just really influenced me how to just be careful with your storytelling. Tell a story that makes sense. Do not just add things just to throw it on, just to see if it sticks. I mean, but you've seen movies like that, and I can't think of one, where they're like at the end, they're like, "Oh, this is the case," and you're like, "Well, why?" And then they're like, "Well, because," and they don't really explain it. This one, because of the ending, makes so much sense, and everything that led up to that makes sense, and I love it. And like I said, I mean, Kevin Spacey, I know, unfortunately, God forbid, but he is great in this role. He got a Best Supporting Actor, and it was, I don't know. To me, this is done well. This in high school, there were just so many good movies that came out. This is when I really wanted to get into writing. But yeah, this movie is one where I just kind of just looked at a movie when I was trying to do more suspense kind of things. I kind of always had to plan it out from beginning to end because I was like, how do I get to point A to point B without cheating? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love this film. Again, I don't know what else to say about it. If you haven't seen it, please go see this because no matter what, even if you know the ending, it is such a good film. One of the better storytelling movies, in my opinion, especially when I was in high school and film was very influential to me. And we are just making so many projects in high school. So, what were your thoughts on Usual Suspects? I mean, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was, and again, I know obviously it's got a very big twist at the end. Which, what do you think? That'd be inappropriate to spoil that, right?
Well, I mean, it's been almost like 30 years. Sorry. I like, wait, 20 years? No, 30. Oh, damn, this came out in 30 years ago. I'm feeling old. Sorry. Um, so, no,
Existential
the few
crisis.
people listening, if you haven't seen this, you're going to see this, just, turn off the video. That's fine. But go ahead and spoil it because I think
Oh no,
most
no,
people
no.
know it.
I think that I think this is one of the few movies. You know how I feel about spoilers. I wouldn't spoil this movie because your first time watching this movie is a part of you. It's an experience watching it for the first time, blind.
Hmm.
Because the payoff that happens at the end, like you literally get to have that ride with Chaz Palminteri, as he kind of puts it all together as well, and it's like it all happens at the same time, and that is a very like that's an awesome film experience. But you know, that's to me like when you have a movie with a twist, it's like, do you feel like rewatching this movie again? And Usual Suspects to me is a good enough movie where even if you do know the ending and you know how it goes down, it's still really well done,
Yeah.
and it's got a great cast, and that it's kind of it's bigger than the ending that it has. Like once you understand, like all the ending does is really just show you how the film and the storytelling was constructed, and then you get to kind of see behind the scenes, and then you get to be a part of it that way. And then when you rewatch it, and you know these things are coming, like it's a little bit more of a satisfying experience. So I think that Usual Suspects is great. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I'll probably have to go check it out because now I want to
Well,
rewatch this.
like you said, the whole story up until then, they're not even throwing an idea of a twist to you, because
No.
basically the whole idea is how these five guys first they realize how they come together. They want to pull off this one crime, and then yes, there's Kaiser Sose, and then they're like just the one last big hurrah to get all this money. If you survive, you get you can split the money. However, so the twist wasn't even an important detail until towards the end when you're like, wait a second, because you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
You're kind of engrossed in another story, and this is
Hmm.
just a smaller one. And then when they do it, it again. It's done right. And like you said, it's a good enough story where even if you know the twist, you're still enjoying it. And like I said, I enjoy all these actors. Like I said, Stephen Baldwin could have moved over this movie for me, but Kevin Pollak, Gabrielle Byrne, um, Benicio del Toro. It's just such a great acting, such a great cast. So I
Agreed.
know that to me, that is definitely up there. It's one of my favorite films, but also one that was influential because at that time I was doing a lot of writing, kind of figuring out what kind of writer I wanted to be. And this helped influence me about how to not just tell certain stories. So I just love it. I can watch that again. I probably watch it almost once every year. I feel like so.
I'm
Oh,
gonna have to give it a rewatch, that's for sure.
yeah, I think I found it on Tubi, so you can at least get it for free. I mean, I know I own it, but when you find it for free on
Nice.
streaming, it's easy. So whenever I watched it last, it was either on Tubi or Netflix, but it was definitely free. I was just like, yep, I will watch this again. So,
Awesome. All right, I will definitely check it out.
but I think we're at your fifth pick now, if I'm counting correctly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
besides our shared last movie, what is your last influential movie to you?
My last influential movie to me, and it was probably, it's funny, it's the last movie I think I remember seeing before I left California. And this movie was Terminator 2, Judgment Day,
Judgment Day.
starring Arnold, directed by James Cameron. Obviously, the follow-up to Terminator, which is a really hilariously bad 80s movie if you rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's strange how it translates. Like they're both the tones of these two movies are way different. And Terminator 2 was in most of the time, and even as a kid, I knew that sequels were usually shittier than the original movie. But Terminator 2 came out and turned that upside down because it was way better than the original
Oh
movie. That was the
God,
first
yeah,
time.
yeah.
This is the first time that I ever saw that. I liked the original Terminator, and I saw it a lot as a kid, actually, right around that like Nightmare on Elm Street part of my life, like mid '80s, because I watched adult movies way too early in my life. It's probably why I am the way that I am. But Terminator 2 is way better than Terminator 1. It expands on the lore. It's got great performances everywhere. Linda Hamilton is a fucking beast in this movie. And the soundtrack is fantastic, and it just was such an awesome ass motherfucking blockbuster movie. It came out at a time, it had a lot of hype to it, and it lived up to the hype. And it was just absolutely fantastic from beginning to end. How everything is done is just such a high caliber, and really one of James Cameron's best movies, I think. Unless you like Titanic, which is okay, or Avatar, that's fine. But Terminator 2, it did the whole time travel thing, right? Again, it's got this whole Mobius loop thing because you can do time travel a bunch of different ways in narratives, obviously, as we've talked about. We were just talking about this with Back to the Future, but it has a set of rules and it keeps to those set of rules throughout and hangs everything else around that. And it's done really, really well. And the special effects at the time are great. Actually, I think they were kind of breakthrough at the time too, especially with Mr. Liquid Metal over here.
The T-1000
Um,
Robert Patrick, yeah, that was
yes.
amazing to watch when that came out.
That was fucking nuts, dude. And again, Guns N' Roses soundtrack, one of my favorite songs of all time for Guns N' Roses, is on this soundtrack. And I used to watch the MTV countdowns back in the day. I know, what a
Yeah,
thing. And it was You Could Be Mine and Enter Sandman
Sam,
were
yep,
always
yep, yep.
they were flip-flopping one and two on the MTV countdown. And it was a great piece of music for a fantastic movie and just overall kind of showed what like a big budget sequel could be that actually fucking was written well and advanced the lore and expanded on it. I mean, done by the same director too. It just to me this is I would say that this is a perfect movie for me. If I had to say a perfect movie that I can turn on and watch from beginning to end, I know it's going to be awesome. It's Terminator 2. I mean, I probably, if anything, I get kind of sad that it turned into such dog shit after this. Um, but Terminator 2 in itself, again, one of the last movies I watched before I moved from California to New Hampshire, and let me tell you, that was quite a transition. So for me to kind of this be the last movie I saw in a theater, was just yeah, that was great. So Terminator 2 is my pick, and I don't know how you feel, but I've talked about it on the other brackets that we've had too.
Yeah, we had
So
the best decades. Yeah, no, I mean, I
yeah,
agree with you. It's definitely better than the original. I saw three in Salvation, and I'm going to forget about them. Rise of the Machines, whatever it's called. First one, yeah, it's good, but when you rewatch it, it's like, man, maybe it's not as good. And I always laugh at the
it's
fact I
not.
think they referenced this in the second, maybe that the fact that John Connor had to send his dad back in time, knowing that he was going to
Yes.
bang his mom and make
Yeah.
him. And, it's just like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's
That's
weird. Like
great.
I know you're going to be my dad, but I can't tell you. So but yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. Linda Hamilton, from being a damsel in distress to an ass kicker, was the biggest
Yes.
thing. So, oh
Huge, dude. Huge. I mean, that nuclear bomb going off and melting her face off, like, was my thing of nightmares for, like,
yeah,
again, I think I probably shouldn't have watched these movies as early as I did. I'm not a scientist, but they fucked with me, man. Like,
oh
that shit was like the way her, like, skeleton blew apart, like, and everything, in the nuclear bomb, that shit was fucking terrifying. And it's like, oh, AI and Skynet. And here we are. Skynet's gonna take over.
yep.
Judgment
So
Day.
before we go, Madness, if you're still there, have a good one. Thank you for joining us very much and listening. We will talk Star Wars soon. We'll figure something out. We don't know when. We'll get
Yes.
together, start kind of piecing together next ones. But Madness, thank you for coming around. So,
Thank you, Madness.
all right. So for my last pick, before we get to our number one, I'm
Mhm.
looking more at my college days. This is when I was really getting into writing. Um, and I wrote a story which, afterwards kind of dealt with friendship and stuff like that, but it was a little bit different. It's like basically four friends falling in love. A newspaper called it, a love story from a guy's point of view. So I like a good buddy movie. And obviously, people who know this well way back then, I know Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have changed a little bit, in their superstardom, but Good Will Hunting is such a fucking phenomenal
Yes.
film. They are both young. The fact that they both wrote this, I mean, whether or not Matt Damon wrote it more or not, I don't care. But they were pushing for this because at the time, I think Ben Affleck was really only in like Mallrats, and I think Chase and Amy came out. Matt Damon really only had School Ties. So they were doing things, but they weren't the superstars. But this movie, if I could focus on this, it's just such a well told movie. I mean, you got Matt Damon, who's like a genius. He's always in trouble and stuff like that, getting beat up. Um, and when they figure out he can solve these problems, the teacher gets his friend Robin Williams. And I love Robin Williams. There's so many films to go on, but to help kind of help him out, figure things out. But yeah, Ben
Mm.
Affleck is just the perfect friend as well. Well, no, because at the end, because they're
Yes,
they're
yes.
always there for mainly because you just want a friend that's there for each other, and they're even when they're doing dumb shit or they make mistakes, they call each other out on it, but they're still each other. But yeah, Ben Affleck says the best 5 minutes of his life is or whatever is when he's walking up to get Matt Damon, and and I don't know Will Hunting, and like he doesn't want him to be home. He just wants him to be gone to live a better life because he deserves to be out there. Whereas Ben Affleck's like, I'm going to grow up here. This is my life. But there's another reason why I had to add Good Will Hunting, and it's more or less about Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And this film, I've never seen in theaters. I loved it. Another great one. You just see how them apples. Minnie Driver's great. Again, this is just another great cast. But a few years later after this, and I don't know if you knew this, they ran a competition called Project Greenlight. Do you remember this?
Yes. I
So
do. I
me and
do.
my friend, who was more of a director, I was right. We did a lot of one day book
Oh,
projects,
yeah.
and we did a
Yeah.
lot of stuff together. Hence why I think this budding friendship kind of, in a different way, we just always wanted to make movies together and stuff like that. But I wrote a script for this Project Greenlight called Sleep Pattern, which might
Oh,
come up in the topic down the road.
sounds like
Um,
a suspense movie.
hold on. So you want to maybe put it this way? No, 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 no. This is gonna. I know I want to talk about this film, but real quick, this is hilarious, Soto. So before we get into it, I entered this contest, and what happens
Hmm.
is you read like other people's scripts, you rate it. You need to read three, but you can read as many as you want. My script, so the top 250 moved to the next round, kind of where you made
Hmm.
videos. We are a top 250 alternate. So we were somewhere 251 to 275, whereas if someone didn't officially put in their thing, we could step in. So I was fucking proud of this moment. Like my script made it,
Wow.
basically in the top 275. I know it wasn't top 250, but I was like, damn. I remember my dad hearing about this, and he had like I think like a whiskey, and I was I yeah, I was old enough, but he had a shot of whiskey. He was like, it was a big moment for me. I'm like, oh my god, and there was a lot of shitty scripts. Like I read more than the three. So you want to know what the script was about, Soto? Let's go on a tangent, and I'll try to be quick. A lot of people compared it to Nightmare on
Sleep
Elm Street, which,
pattern.
well, I we couldn't figure out a title, but the
Okay.
idea was these students or these younger people who needed money um, basically took part of a study where this doctor kind of basically um, studied them while they were sleeping. And what the
Hmm.
problem was, they think nothing's going on. They're like, this is weird, but they're getting paid. They don't fucking give a shit. So down the road, what they're slowly finding out is all of a sudden they can't tell the difference between what is real and what is not. Hence, a lot of people compare to Nightmare Before Elm Street. What they find out, though, is that the
Mm.
scientist is kind of implanting memories into their brain. I wrote this before Inception, and the funny thing was that idea was in Inception. My friend Dan's like, "Have you seen the trailer to Inception?" And I said, "No," and I almost wanted to boycott the movie. Do not get me wrong, Inception's a great movie. I love Christopher Nolan, and I'm not bad mouthing it, but this is in 2000. It was basically that the idea that he was putting thoughts, putting memories in these kids' brains, and they could not figure out what was real and what was not. That was if I can. I have a copy, so I will lend it to you, and we can laugh about it together. Because I've been saying this was like a first draft. I had to put it out quickly because when we found out about this, I didn't have a lot of time. I was built, so
Yeah.
I actually took a week off. I quit my job early. I was already
Oh
ready
my
to leave my
God.
job. I just gave him this, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm done." I was like, I spent a week at my mom's computer trying to piece together real quick. So this, I don't want to say it's first draft, but there's still a lot of first draft in it because we had three different endings, and we didn't know which ending to go with. So I threw in one because my friend Dan, though, he didn't. I did most of the writing, but he gave me the ideas because we were talking about it. And yeah, so now we're going far away from Good Will Hunting, but the idea was, yeah, this scientist was kind of implanting things in their thoughts, so they didn't know what was real, they didn't know what was going on, and then so when the idea of Inception came out, now again, do not get me wrong, Inception's a great movie, but I laughed when it first came out. I'm like, I'm boycotting this movie. I don't want to see it. They fucking stole from me, which they didn't. He made it far and away better than I ever could have. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying I wrote Inception before him. I'm not that. I'm not
Christopher
that egotist.
Nolan
I love no. I love this first film.
versus Chad.
I love Memento. His first film, Following, was great. I am a huge Nolan fan.
Oh,
But
even
yeah,
the Batman movies?
even
You
the
like the
Batman
Batman
movies.
ones? Oh,
Oh,
god damn,
what,
dude.
what, what, I mean, yeah, but I didn't put him in my top. I love Memento following. Like I said, he's just anyhow. It's not.
Memento's great. It's great.
I love Memento, but if you ever
So
his
good.
first one following is a black and white one is really good. But yeah, so anyhow, back to Good Will
The
Hunting.
sleep pattern. No, I like the sleep pattern thing. I'm gonna think on it because
Yeah,
sleep pattern to me sounds like a suspense movie. I never would have thought that you were implanting memories in somebody's brain. I did
well,
like where you were
I
going with
wish
the
I wouldn't have
doctor.
told you that, but yes, I wish I didn't spoil a little bit about it because I would love. Again, I read it now and I cringe at so much that I write in the past. Like I'm like,
We all
oh,
do.
I know it's like, really. So I know I have a box with a lot of my old scripts and a lot of my old stories, and I'll have you get that. But that's why I love this. I mean, but more importantly, I love this film. Again, well acted, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and I love Robin Williams. I know we can go off a tangent. This is just such a great buddy movie, such a great story. I couldn't. It was big on me for college. I watched it so many times. So, oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a
So
great movie. It's a fantastic. But I
I
have to ask you about this, Mr. Good Hunting. I need you to explain this to me. Okay? Are you ready?
good luck. I don't know the last time I saw it, but hit me with it.
Okay. So they buy Matt Damon a car, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. They buy him a car. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, why does he go to pick him up? And then he's surprised that he's not there. Bitch, you got him a car.
Well, I think they
Now he
got him a
doesn't
car
have to
so he
be
can.
home.
So I think they got him a car mainly so he can do his own things, like take
But why
Minnie
would he be
drive out for a
surprised if he
day.
wasn't home? Because he
He
doesn't have a
wasn't
car
surprised.
no more.
He was happy. He wasn't surprised. If you remember at the end, he wasn't
But
surprised he wasn't
why did
home
he go pick him up if he got a car
because
now?
they're hanging out together. If me and you were going to hang out, are we both driving? If it was just me and you, we're like, hey, you're passing by me. Let's go to the bar. You mind picking me up? You're going to
So
pick
are
me
you
up.
saying that that happened in the afternoon and not in the morning?
I don't think they got him
That
a car the
scene?
same day. I think the car happened like before that.
No, no,
Um,
no. But I'm saying at the end when Ben Affleck goes and he's like gonna go pick him up, right? Is
yeah,
that
that's like in the
happening in the
morning afternoon.
morning?
It's morning afternoon.
Because
So
if
I
it
don't
happens
know.
in the morning, it's like is he taking him to work? But if he's happening at night and he's about to go out and he's not there, then maybe that's a
Well,
different
it was
story.
definitely it was daytime, so the sun was somewhat out. It could have been afternoon, maybe it was
Yes.
early evening. I would have to rewatch the scene and I can give you an official answer. But until I cannot give you an official answer on that.
To be continued on this because
Breathe, breathe, breathe.
I don't want this to be forgotten because this is a conversation I've had in my household and I don't know the answer. So I would love to hear what your answer is
Let me
in this
rewatch.
situation.
Let me rewatch this. I'll have to rewatch the whole movie. I've watched scenes from it, bits and pieces. It's been a while since I watched it from start to be, start
We
to end.
watch
Start
it
to
we watch it every year on October 21st because that's when the 1975 World Series was.
hmm
So every year Sarah and I watch it and it's one of our favorite movies.
Yeah,
So obviously being from Boston and everything, it's just a great movie. Um, but we rewatch it and we've noticed these things, and then again, you rewatch movies over and over, and you're like, wait a second, what? Because he's like, if I go to your house and you're not there, like, oh, blah blah blah, you're
yeah, but
still there, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Yeah,
So you kind of know that more than I do. I will watch it and I'll see if I can do my best. But I don't think he was surprised he wasn't home. If he knocks, and he waits a second, he kind of smiles, and then he looks back to everyone and just kind of shrugs, and that's about it.
yeah. And then
Um,
Morgan gets in the front seat and all that stuff, and they're like, oh,
yeah,
I
his
guess
little
he's
bro.
gone.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I get the front seat now. So
fucking Morgan. Can I get 2 beers?
yeah,
You need to rewatch that movie, man, because it's a fantastic movie. It
it
really is.
definitely. Yeah, I know it has been a while. It's probably the one movie I haven't seen in a while. The longest out of all five of these. So, but here we are. We're heading to our final movie. And we've discussed this on numerous occasions. And those who know us probably don't know that, surprise, surprise. But both of our most influential number one movie is Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
actually had a video where we talked about what we think is the best scene and the worst scene. But a little bit when I saw this movie, Soto, I was blown away. Not the story, the fact that it's out of order and it works. Every character, just works again outside of the Gimp. I know I've said this. I hate the Gimp in this one, and I know some people laugh and love it. Pretty
The
much every
Gimp.
character works, but you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
this is just Quentin Tarantino at his best. I mean, I loved Reservoir Dogs, but this was at his best as far as telling stories. So, what were some of the reasons that you loved it? What were your first
Yeah,
thoughts when you saw this?
trying to think of ones that I haven't already said. But I actually didn't like this movie when I first saw it.
What?
Yes, when I first saw this movie, because again, I'm younger than you, so it's like
Oh,
we
that's
we keep
true.
seeing these movies at the same time, but you're like much more emotionally mature than I am. Like you're like at the appropriate age to be watching these movies, where I am not, if you think about it in that context. So it's
I
like I
was
watched it.
16, yeah, when this came out. I think
I was
Not-
fucking not
12.
16, dude.
You were
So
12. I got
yeah,
4 years,
okay.
so you
So
were
I'm a
12. I think I was
12-year-old
16.
watching Pulp Fiction, way above. This was way above my mental like capacity to handle this movie, to the point where it's like if I didn't understand it, I didn't like it. So I saw this on VHS and was like, I don't get this movie at all. This movie is dumb. And then when I got older, I was like, oh no, I have made a mistake. This movie is actually way cooler than I ever will be.
Hmm.
Um, and that's when I fell in love. And once I fell in love, um, it was over. I've watched it a million times. I see new things every time I watch it. It's so iconic in so many different scenes. Um, yeah, it's just even now I struggle to find things that have the same kind of just vibe that this movie has, which is like it's got a little bit of a comedy. It is dark, obviously. It's got violence to it, but it's not violent in the way that Quentin Tarantino's movies are now violent. Like Quentin Tarantino's movie now is like way over the top violent. I know
Bloody, yeah, yeah.
you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but
Correct.
there's violence in there. So Quentin Tarantino got very violent as his career went on, but or at least much more cartoonish. And this was still kind of like, yeah, there is violence in it, but it's very practical and again, pulpy as fuck. Like just really like great kind of storylines that you've already seen in other like mediums, but like kind of like with little twists in them, like the guy taking his boss's girlfriend out and shit like that, and how that happens, and there's a whole heroin overdose thing, and just the whole way that it's played on with these genres really makes this movie just so cool. And even now, rewatching it. Um, it still holds up. It fucking looks great. It talks great. Um, of course, there's a Quentin Tarantino scene towards the end that probably doesn't like age very well.
Yeah,
Um, well, I never liked that scene to begin with, and not
yeah.
because of what he was saying, but because he's like a terrible actor. I think the only time he made me laugh was when he was in Little Nicky. And he was like the priest with that was blind, and he's like, "We's all gonna die." That was the only time I ever liked him. Maybe from Dusk Till Dawn. Maybe
Although, yeah,
he was
that kind of fits
he
more
was
of his
better than
character. He's
that.
more weird, and he dies halfway through that. So, spoiler alert. But yeah, from Dust to Dawn. But yeah, no, Pulp Fiction, like I said, for me, came out when I was in high school. I was a
Yeah,
sophomore, and I loved it. And this definitely influenced, just me in writing. I mean, I could tell you I have stories which we did nothing, which were heavily influenced from this, and like it took me a little bit to get away from a Quentin Tarantino style, but I do have a couple like quick stories where I'm like, oh my god, this is way too Tarantino. Not creating my own kind of identity, but more like him. Um, but yeah, no, this is just great, and I know I said this in our last video. The opening scene alone gets you
oh,
ready for
so
this
great.
film, and I love Tim Roth, and that whole scene is just great, and the music, everything about this is just it is. This is his best film that he's ever done. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I
Agreed.
I know we could probably stay here again for so long talking scenes and stuff like that, but we do have a
Oh my
previous
God,
video of
yeah.
this. Watch that. Anyone that's like I said, who was in high school in the '90s and was a filmmaker, this is heavily influential, and yeah, I can see why it definitely influenced both of us into our love for filmmaking and why we wanted to be filmmakers when we were younger, and
Oh yeah.
even still now, it's just such a great film. Oh,
Hmm.
oh. But yeah, so that's kind of our list. That's all our influential films. I mean, I know we have
Oh,
more favorite ones that we can talk about, and who knows, as we do more of these, we'll maybe pick apart more films and stuff like that outside of Rotten Taste. It's good to talk about good films. I like talking about good
oh,
films.
so
It makes me
refreshing.
happy. Yeah,
Oh, we should do that more.
we will. We got times, doing this laugh on YouTube.
It's just these 8%ers, man. They just take the life out of me.
Yeah, I know, and we can have some people in the past chat. Mel Madness definitely can join us for some of the just regular films.
Oh
We just
yes,
talk happy films, you know,
yeah, I'm down with
But
that.
I know, but we still have some rotten taste to figure out coming up. Some bad Star Wars films that we're gonna have to talk about. So, but
Cool.
anyhow, to those who joined us who are still here, Mel Madness, Russ, Cranky, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, keeping us company as chatting. Yeah, so this is our first live on YouTube. It'll be easier. We'll keep the unedited for, oh, Carlos, right at the end, you know, he actually did one
Carlos.
of, yeah, he did one of the when we did like the scariest movies, he did one, I believe. I forget which one he did, but he was part of that. um yeah, I wish I could remember, but yeah, no, these are just some of our influential films, and yeah, we definitely want to do more on YouTube. We want to keep Twitch more to gaming. I think we get more interactions here on YouTube, and more people can join in our podcast, and it's just fun to talk to the people and just bullshit about whatever. I mean, go back and listen to the beginning if you want to hear Soto talk about shitting his pants from food poisoning. We just talk about the most random
I
shit.
mean,
So
it's
it's
as
forever there on video now.
it's
YouTube.
it's not the only time I've shit my pants, everyone. Spoiler alert. I'm not going to spoil the end of Usual Suspects, but I will tell you that I have also shit my pants other times. So if you're around, sometimes it does happen on scary games. So we'll try to get more of that. Like you said, we'll try to get more on Twitch. I know I'm playing Aegis Rim or something like that. Aegis Rim Sentinel. It's like some weird like point and click anime futuristic game that I have no idea what's going on in it, but that's fine. I'm also playing Disco Elysium, which is about a recovering alcoholic in some weird time space and trying to be a detective. And what else am I playing? Maybe I'll throw in some Potato Sack. We'll see.
Oh, that was so fun. Yeah, we're finishing Evil West up on Twitch shortly, and
Oh,
then we got to get rid of that game,
oh,
and then
oh
yeah,
God.
we'll move on. I know
Oh,
we're gonna get to
it's a
that
tough
shortly. We're gonna take
job.
a quick break after this, and then we're gonna go over to Twitch and stream that, and who knows what we'll
Cool.
do next. But no, thank you everyone who joined, and if you're
Yes,
listening
thank you.
after it's live, thank you for watching or listening again. But let us know what your influential films, what films made you love movies. What'd you think of our
Yeah.
list? So, but until next time, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.